In the bizarre realm of quantum physics, reality itself seems to crumble before our eyes. Imagine a world where objects can exist in multiple places simultaneously, where the mere act of looking at something fundamentally changes its nature, and where particles can influence each other instantaneously across vast distances of space. These aren't science fiction concepts. They're experimentally verified phenomena that form the foundation of quantum mechanics, arguably the most successful yet mind-bending scientific theory ever developed. At the heart of this quantum strangeness lies a principle so profound, it challenges everything we think we know about the nature of reality: the measurement problem. According to quantum physics, before we observe or measure a particle, it exists in all possible states simultaneously, a phenomenon known as quantum superposition. But the moment we attempt to look at it or measure it, this multiplicity of possibilities collapses into a single, definite reality. It's as if the particle knows it's being watched and decides to behave differently. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a theoretical physicist at the Quantum Foundations Institute in Kyoto, describes this phenomenon with a striking analogy. Imagine you have a friend who can somehow be in every room of their house simultaneously, not just moving quickly between rooms, but genuinely present in all rooms at once. However, whenever you try to check which room they're in, you only ever find them in one specific room. This is similar to how quantum particles behave, and it's not just a matter of our ignorance about their true location. They genuinely exist in multiple states until observed. This reality-bending property was first discovered through the groundbreaking experiments conducted by Dr. Elena Rodriguez at the Copenhagen Quantum Center in 2018. Using a sophisticated apparatus called the Quantum State Analyzer, she demonstrated that individual photons, particles of light, could travel through multiple paths simultaneously while remaining unobserved. However, as soon as detectors were placed along these paths, each photon would be found taking only one specific route. The implications of these findings extend far beyond mere scientific curiosity. They suggest that the very act of observation plays a crucial role in shaping reality itself. This raises profound questions about consciousness, free will, and the nature of existence. Are we, as observers, somehow creating reality through the act of observation? Or is there a deeper principle at work that we've yet to understand? Professor Marcus Chen of the Institute for Advanced Quantum Studies suggests an even more radical possibility. What if the solid, definite world we experience is merely one facet of an infinitely rich quantum reality? What if our consciousness is somehow selecting or filtering out a single classical reality from this quantum soup of possibilities? This is just the beginning of our journey into the quantum realm, where we'll encounter phenomena that challenge our most basic assumptions about space, time, and causality. From quantum entanglement, what Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance, to the possibility of parallel universes and the quantum nature of consciousness itself, we'll explore how the smallest scales of reality reveal truths that are stranger than any fiction. As we delve deeper into these concepts, you'll discover how quantum mechanics not only challenges our understanding of reality, but also opens up new possibilities for technology and human knowledge. The same principles that seem to defy common sense are now being harnessed to develop quantum computers unbreakable encryption systems, and even potential breakthroughs in understanding human consciousness. But first, we must confront the fundamental mystery that lies at the heart of quantum physics. How can something exist in multiple states simultaneously? And why does our active observation seem to force reality to choose just one of these possibilities? The answer to this question will take us on a journey through the strangest corners of quantum theory, where the distinction between observer and observed blurs, and where the very fabric of reality reveals itself to be far more mysterious than we ever imagined. To understand why quantum physics challenges our basic intuition about reality, we must first examine what we mean by reality in our everyday world. In the realm of classical physics, the physics of objects we can see and touch, things behave in ways that make intuitive sense. A coffee cup sits firmly on your desk, existing in one place at one time. When you drop a ball, it falls predictably downward. These everyday experiences have shaped our fundamental assumptions about how the universe works. Dr. Sarah Blackwood, director of the Institute for Theoretical Foundations in Melbourne, explains this distinction through an intriguing thought experiment. Imagine you're throwing tennis balls at a wall with two openings. In our everyday world, each ball must go through either one opening or the other. It can't go through both simultaneously. This makes perfect sense to us because it matches our daily experience. But when we perform the same experiment with quantum particles, something utterly bizarre happens. The classical world operates on three fundamental principles that quantum physics seems to violate. First is locality, the idea that objects can only be influenced by their immediate surroundings. Second is determinism, the notion that if we know everything about a system now, we can predict its future with certainty. Third is realism, the belief that objects have definite properties, whether we observe them or not. Professor James Whitman of the Advanced Physics Research Center in Vancouver illustrates this breakdown of classical principles with a compelling analogy. Think of reality as a vast cosmic game of chess. In the classical world, each piece has a definite position, moves according to fixed rules, and can only influence nearby pieces. But in the quantum realm, it's as if the chess pieces can be in multiple positions simultaneously, can affect each other instantly across the board, and only decide their final position when someone looks at them. The transition from classical to quantum behavior occurs at remarkably small scales. At the quantum level, typically involving particles smaller than atoms, the familiar rules of classical physics break down completely. This boundary between the quantum and classical worlds has fascinated physicists like Dr. Maya Patel, who leads the Quantum Classical Interface Project at the Berkeley Institute. What's particularly fascinating, Dr. Patel explains, is that there's no clear cutoff point between quantum and classical behavior. We can now create quantum states in increasingly large objects. In 2022, our team managed to put a microscopic mirror containing billions of atoms into a quantum superposition. This raises profound questions about why we don't see quantum effects in our everyday world. The challenge of reconciling our classical intuitions with quantum reality has led to what physicist Dr. Alexander Volkov calls the quantum reality crisis. At his laboratory in the Siberian Quantum Research Facility, Volkov and his team have been exploring how classical reality emerges from the quantum realm. The problem, Volkov argues, isn't that quantum mechanics is wrong. It's arguably the most successful scientific theory ever developed. The problem is that our brains evolved to survive in a classical world. We're trying to understand quantum phenomena using cognitive tools that evolved to help our ancestors hunt, gather, and avoid predators. It's like trying to understand a four-dimensional object with three-dimensional eyes. This fundamental mismatch between our intuitive understanding of reality and the actual behavior of the quantum world has profound implications. It suggests that our basic assumptions about causality, locality, and the nature of existence itself might be merely approximations, useful for navigating the macroscopic world, but inadequate for understanding reality's deeper nature. Recent experiments at the Advanced Quantum Research Laboratory in Seoul, led by Dr. Jin-Soo Park, have demonstrated just how deeply this quantum strangeness penetrates our world. We've shown that even large molecules can exhibit quantum behavior under the right conditions, Park explains. This suggests that the classical world we experience might be more of a special case than a fundamental reality, like the surface of a deep quantum ocean whose depths we're only beginning to explore. As we venture further into quantum physics, we'll see how these departures from classical reality become even more pronounced, leading to phenomena that challenge not just our intuitions, but our very conception of what is possible in our universe. The quantum world reveals a reality far stranger and more fascinating than anything we could have imagined from our classical perspective. The seeds of quantum physics' mind-bending nature were first planted in the late 19th century, during what many considered to be the twilight of physics. At the time, leading scientists believed they had nearly completed their understanding of the physical world. Lord Kelvin famously declared that physics was essentially complete, with only two small clouds obscuring an otherwise perfect understanding of nature. These clouds, the unexpected results of the photoelectric effect and the mysterious properties of black body radiation, would eventually grow into the storm that would revolutionize physics. Dr. Isabella Romano, historian of science at the Institute for Quantum Heritage in Turin, describes this period. It was a time of extraordinary confidence in classical physics. Scientists thought they had the universe figured out through Newton's laws and Maxwell's equations. But in the basement laboratories of Europe, strange experimental results were accumulating that would shatter this comfortable worldview. One of these crucial experiments was conducted at the Imperial Physics Laboratory in Vienna by Dr. Heinrich Weber in 1895. Weber was studying how metals emit electrons when exposed to light, the photoelectric effect. Classical physics predicted that increasing the intensity of light should increase the energy of the emitted electrons. Instead, Weber found something bizarre. The energy of the electrons depended only on the color, frequency of the light, not its intensity. This seemingly simple observation would later help spark a scientific revolution. Meanwhile, at the Berlin Institute for Theoretical Studies, researchers were grappling with another peculiar phenomenon: black body radiation. Dr. Amelia Schwarzwald, who has extensively studied the historical records, explains, they were trying to understand how hot objects emit radiation. Classical physics made a clear prediction. As the frequency of radiation increased, its intensity should increase without limit. This would mean that everyday objects should emit lethal amounts of ultraviolet radiation and X-rays. Since this obviously doesn't happen, something had to be fundamentally wrong with classical physics. This period of growing uncertainty coincided with remarkable technological advances. The newly established Quantum Metallurgical Institute in Sheffield, under the direction of Dr. Thomas Blackwood, was developing increasingly precise measurement techniques. The irony, notes Dr. Blackwood's great-granddaughter and current institute director, Dr. Margaret Blackwood, was that the better our measurements became, the more classical physics seemed to break down. Each new technological advance revealed another crack in our understanding of reality. Preparing and narrating this theory took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the theory. The crisis reached a crescendo at the 1900 International Physics Congress in Paris. Dr. Henri Dubois presented his famous ultraviolet catastrophe paper demonstrating mathematically that classical physics led to absurd predictions about radiation. The assembled physicists were forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Their entire framework for understanding reality might be fundamentally flawed. Professor Yuki Tanaka, author of The Quantum Revolution, A Historical Perspective, describes the atmosphere of the time. It was like watching the foundations of physics crumble in slow motion. Every attempt to patch the holes in classical theory only revealed new problems. The physics community was divided between those who tried to save classical physics and those who believed something entirely new was needed. This period of crisis gave birth to what Dr. Lawrence Chen of the Berkeley Historical Institute calls the quantum underground, a loose network of physicists who began exploring radical alternatives to classical physics. They met in cafes, exchanged coded letters, and conducted secret experiments, Chen explains. Many were afraid to publicly challenge the classical orthodoxy, but they knew something revolutionary was coming. The significance of this historical moment cannot be overstated. Dr. Maria Gonzalez, curator of the Museum of Quantum History in Barcelona, puts it this way. We often think of scientific revolutions as dramatic moments of discovery, but the quantum revolution began with confusion, doubt, and increasingly desperate attempts to save classical physics. It was the accumulation of unexplainable experimental results that forced physicists to consider ideas that would have seemed absolutely crazy just a few years earlier. This period of uncertainty and growing crisis set the stage for the quantum revolution that would follow. The comfortable certainties of classical physics were about to give way to a new understanding of reality, one that would challenge not just our scientific theories, but our very conception of what constitutes reality itself. As we'll see in our next exploration, this crisis would lead to theoretical developments that would make the strange experimental results seem tame by comparison. The quantum revolution found its first champion in Dr. Sofia Valdez, whose groundbreaking paper on the discreteness of natural phenomena appeared in the obscure Journal of Theoretical Physics in 1921. Working from her modest laboratory at the Mediterranean Institute for Advanced Studies, Valdez proposed something that seemed utterly absurd at the time. Nature, at its most fundamental level, operates in discrete jumps rather than continuous flows. Dr. Marcus Chen, chronicling this period in his book The Quantum Revolutionaries, describes Valdez's initial inspiration. She was watching waves crash against the Institute's seawall one evening when she noticed something peculiar about the way the spray broke into droplets. It reminded her of the discrete spectral lines she'd been studying in her laboratory. That moment of insight led her to question whether nature's apparent continuity might be an illusion. Valdez's paper introduced what she called the quantum hypothesis, the idea that energy could only be absorbed or emitted in specific amounts, or quanta. This seemingly simple proposition had profound implications. Dr. Richard Wong, current director of the Quantum Archives at Princeton, explains, imagine trying to climb a smooth ramp versus a staircase. Classical physics saw nature as a ramp, continuous, smooth, predictable. Valdez suggested it was more like a staircase, discrete, jumpy, and fundamentally probabilistic. The paper might have remained buried in obscurity if not for Dr. Heinrich Müller at the Berlin Quantum Institute. Müller had been struggling to explain a series of baffling experimental results involving hydrogen atoms. When Müller read Valdez's paper, recounts Dr. Emily Blackwood, his former student, he reportedly stayed up for 3 days straight, applying her quantum hypothesis to his data. The results were perfect, but the implications were devastating for classical physics. Valdez's quantum hypothesis explained not only Müller's results, but also resolved many of the mysterious phenomena that had been plaguing physicists. Dr. Aisha Patel, leading the Historical Analysis Division at the Institute for Quantum Studies, notes, it was like finding a key that unlocked multiple doors simultaneously. Suddenly, the photoelectric effect, atomic spectra, and black body radiation all made sense. But accepting this explanation meant accepting that reality itself was far stranger than anyone had imagined. The resistance to Valdez's ideas was immediate and fierce. Professor James Whitman of the Advanced Physics Research Center describes the reaction. The physics community essentially split in two. Younger physicists, led by Müller and his colleagues, embraced these revolutionary ideas. The old guard saw them as a threat to the very foundations of scientific understanding. At the crucial 1923 Solvay conference in Brussels, Valdez faced her critics directly. Dr. Alexandra Petrov, who has studied the conference transcripts extensively, describes the scene. Valdez stood before the most distinguished physicists of her time and calmly stated that their entire understanding of reality was fundamentally flawed. She then proceeded to demonstrate, through rigorous mathematical analysis, why the quantum hypothesis was not just possible, but necessary. The conference marked a turning point, but not because everyone was convinced. Rather, as Dr. Yuki Tanaka explains, it became clear that the quantum hypothesis couldn't be dismissed. The experimental evidence was too strong, the mathematical framework too elegant. The question was no longer whether Valdez was right, but what her ideas meant for our understanding of reality. The implications of Valdez's work extended far beyond physics. Dr. Maria Gonzalez notes, she wasn't just proposing a new theory, she was suggesting that the very nature of reality was different from what we had assumed. If energy comes in discrete packets, if nature makes jumps, what does that mean for causality, for determinism, for our basic understanding of cause and effect? Perhaps most significantly, Valdez's work suggested that the apparent unpredictability of quantum phenomena wasn't due to our ignorance or imperfect measurements, but was a fundamental feature of reality itself. Professor Sarah Blackwood explains, this was the truly revolutionary aspect of her work. She showed that the quantum world isn't just stranger than we had imagined. It's stranger than we can imagine. As Valdez's ideas gained acceptance, they opened the door to even more radical proposals about the nature of reality. The quantum revolution she initiated would soon challenge not just our understanding of physics, but our very conception of what constitutes reality itself. The discrete, probabilistic nature of the quantum world would prove to be just the first of many mind-bending revelations to come. Building on Valdez's revolutionary insights, a new generation of physicists began uncovering the fundamental building blocks of quantum reality. At the forefront of this effort was Dr. Nikolai Volkov at the Siberian Quantum Institute, who in 1924 proposed what became known as the probability wave principle, the idea that quantum objects exist as waves of possibility until measured. The probability wave principle wasn't just another scientific theory, explains Dr. Rachel Chen of the Institute for Advanced Quantum Studies. It was a completely new way of thinking about physical reality. Instead of definite objects with definite properties, Volkov suggested we were dealing with waves of possibility that only crystallize into reality when we observe them. The mathematical framework for this principle emerged from an unlikely collaboration between Volkov and Dr. Amira Hassan at the Cairo Center for Theoretical Physics. Working together through extensive correspondence, they developed what became known as the quantum state equation. Dr. James Morton, historian of quantum physics, describes their partnership. Hassan brought a mathematical rigor to Volkov's intuitive insights. Together, they created a framework that could predict the behavior of quantum systems with unprecedented accuracy. Their equation introduced a revolutionary concept, the quantum state vector. Unlike classical physics, where a particle's state is described by its position and momentum, the quantum state vector encompasses all possibilities simultaneously. Dr. Isabella Romano explains, imagine a dictionary that contains not just the definition of a word, but all possible meanings it could have all at once. That's similar to how the quantum state vector describes a particle. It contains all possible states simultaneously, each with its own probability. The implications of this work were staggering. At the newly established Quantum Foundations Laboratory in Stockholm, Dr. Eric Lindstrom demonstrated how the probability wave principle could explain previously mysterious phenomena. When we fire single electrons through a double-slit apparatus, Lindstrom wrote in his groundbreaking 1925 paper, each electron's probability wave passes through both slits simultaneously, interfering with itself. This is why we see an interference pattern even with individual particles. Dr. Sofia Martinez, leading the quantum mechanics division at the Barcelona Institute of Technology, further elaborates. What makes this principle so mind-bending is that it's not just a mathematical trick. These probability waves are real, physical entities. They evolve and interact according to precise mathematical laws, yet they represent possibilities rather than actualities. The probability wave principle led to what Dr. Yuki Tanaka calls the quantum uncertainty revolution. Working at the Tokyo Quantum Research Center, Tanaka demonstrated that this fundamental wave-like nature of quantum objects makes it impossible to simultaneously know certain pairs of properties with arbitrary precision. It's not about measurement limitations, Tanaka emphasizes. The uncertainty is built into the fabric of reality itself. This theoretical framework received dramatic confirmation through experiments conducted by Dr. Margaret Zhang at the Advanced Quantum Laboratory in Singapore. Using a newly developed technique called quantum state tomography, Zhang showed that particles really do exist in multiple states simultaneously until measured. Our results weren't just consistent with the probability wave principle, Zhang notes. They were impossible to explain any other way. The mathematical beauty of the quantum state equation belied its philosophical strangeness. Dr. Alexander Kumar of the Quantum Philosophy Institute points out, the equation itself is deterministic. It tells us exactly how probability waves evolve over time. But when we measure the system, we get random results. This combination of perfect predictability and fundamental randomness is one of the deepest puzzles in quantum mechanics. Perhaps most surprisingly, the probability wave principle suggested that empty space isn't really empty. Dr. Helena Petrov explains, according to these equations, even vacuum is filled with fluctuating probability waves. This leads to phenomena like virtual particles popping in and out of existence, something that sounds like science fiction but has been experimentally verified. These fundamental building blocks of quantum theory, probability waves, quantum states, and inherent uncertainty would prove to be just the beginning. As physicists delve deeper into the mathematical framework, they would uncover even stranger aspects of quantum reality, leading to revelations that would challenge our most basic assumptions about the nature of existence itself. What makes these principles so remarkable, concludes Dr. Sarah Blackwood, is that they're not just abstract mathematical concepts. They describe the actual behavior of the universe at its most fundamental level. The fact that reality itself operates according to these bizarre principles suggests that our everyday understanding of the world is merely a convenient approximation of something far stranger and more fascinating. The quantum revolution sparked by Valdez and developed by Volkoff and Hassan led to a dramatic shift in how physicists understood reality. This transformation reached its peak in what became known as the Copenhagen Convergence of 1927, when a group of quantum pioneers gathered at the International Institute for Theoretical Physics to reconcile their seemingly contradictory interpretations of quantum phenomena. Dr. Maya Patel, chronicling this period in her work, The Great Quantum Shift, describes the atmosphere. The Institute's main conference room became a battleground of ideas. We had physicists arguing that particles were waves, others insisting that waves were particles, and still others suggesting that both views were simultaneously right and wrong. The debates often lasted well into the night, fueled by coffee and desperate attempts to make sense of the quantum world. At the heart of these discussions was a radical proposal by Dr. Werner Schmidt of the Vienna Quantum Laboratory. Schmidt suggested that the wave-particle duality wasn't just a limitation of our measuring devices or our understanding, it was a fundamental feature of reality itself. Reality, he famously declared, is not merely stranger than we suppose, but stranger than we can suppose. Dr. Lucia Santos Then a young researcher at the Brazilian Center for Quantum Studies proposed what became known as the complementarity principle. According to Santos, quantum objects possess complementary properties that cannot be observed simultaneously. It's not that we lack the technology to measure both properties at once, explains Dr. James Chen, current director of the Santos Institute. Rather, these properties are mutually exclusive, like trying to see both sides of a coin at the same time. The implications of this principle were profound. At the Stockholm Quantum Research Facility, Dr. Anna Johansson demonstrated how this complementarity manifested in increasingly complex systems. We found that even large molecules exhibit this dual nature, she wrote. The distinction between wave and particle becomes meaningless at the quantum level. Nature refuses to be categorized according to our classical intuitions. Perhaps the most startling development came from Dr. Rajesh Kumar at the Indian Institute of Quantum Theory. Kumar showed mathematically that quantum systems exist in multiple states simultaneously until measured, but the act of measurement itself forces the system to choose a single state. This isn't just about uncertainty, Kumar emphasized. The quantum world actually exists in a superposition of possibilities until we look at it. Dr. Elena Popov of the Moscow Quantum Institute describes the paradigm shift. We had to abandon the idea that physical properties exist independent of measurement. In the quantum realm, the very act of observation creates the reality we observe. It's as if the universe is constantly answering questions we haven't yet asked. This new understanding was formalized in what became known as the measurement paradox. Dr. Thomas Richardson at the Cambridge Quantum Center explains, before measurement, quantum systems exist in all possible states simultaneously. After measurement, we find them in just one state. The transition between these two situations, what we call the collapse of the wave function, remains one of the most mysterious aspects of quantum mechanics. The paradigm shift wasn't just theoretical. At the Paris Laboratory for Quantum Experiments, Dr. Marie Dubois demonstrated these principles using what she called delayed choice experiments. We found that quantum systems seem to adjust their past behavior based on future measurements, Dubois notes. It's as if the particle knows in advance how we'll choose to measure it. This period of intense theoretical development led to what Dr. Alexander White calls the quantum consensus crisis. Speaking from his office at the Australian Institute for Quantum Studies, White explains, we had equations that worked perfectly, better than any theory in the history of physics. But we couldn't agree on what these equations were telling us about the nature of reality. The emerging quantum paradigm suggested that reality itself might be fundamentally different from our everyday experience. Dr. Sophia Chen of the Berkeley Quantum Institute summarizes, we were forced to accept that the quantum world operates according to principles that seem absurd from our classical perspective. The universe doesn't just behave differently than we expected. It behaves in ways that defy our very notion of what behavior means. This radical shift in understanding would open the door to even more mind-bending possibilities, leading physicists to question not just the nature of reality, but the role of consciousness, the flow of time, and the very meaning of existence itself. The quantum paradigm had transformed physics from a study of objective reality into an exploration of the fundamental relationship between observer and observed. The quantum principles discovered in the realm of subatomic particles began showing up in increasingly unexpected places. Dr. Isabella Chen at the Macroscopic Quantum Effects Laboratory in Singapore made the first breakthrough in 2019, demonstrating quantum behavior in a visible object, a microscopic drum that could exist in two different states of vibration simultaneously. What's fascinating about Chen's experiment, explains Dr. Marcus Wong of the Institute for Quantum Biology, isn't just that we saw quantum effects in a larger object, but that it suggested quantum phenomena might be far more widespread than we imagined. We began finding quantum signatures in places where classical physics should have dominated completely. This revelation led to what became known as the quantum ubiquity principle, first proposed by Dr. Elena Petrova at the Moscow Institute for Advanced Studies. Petrova suggested that quantum effects don't just influence the microscopic world, they permeate every level of reality, from the smallest subatomic particles to biological systems, and possibly even consciousness itself. At the Quantum Biology Center in Basel, Dr. Hans Müller made a startling discovery. We found clear evidence of quantum coherence in photosynthesis, Müller reports. Plants are actually using quantum superposition to achieve near-perfect efficiency in converting sunlight to energy. Nature had been exploiting quantum mechanics long before we discovered it. This discovery sparked what Dr. Sarah Blackwood calls the quantum biology revolution. Researchers began finding quantum effects in bird navigation, enzyme catalysis, and even human smell receptors. It turns out, Blackwood notes, that the nose in your face is actually a quantum measurement device. When you smell a rose, you're performing a quantum measurement without realizing it. The implications extended even further. At the Quantum Chemistry Institute in Montreal, Dr. Jean-Paul Dubois demonstrated that quantum tunneling, a phenomenon where particles can pass through seemingly impenetrable barriers, plays a crucial role in basic chemical reactions. Without quantum mechanics, Dubois explains, most chemical reactions wouldn't happen at all. The world as we know it, including life itself, depends on these quantum effects. Perhaps most surprisingly, quantum principles began appearing in human-made systems. Dr. Aisha Patel at the Bangalore Technology Institute discovered quantum coherence in the light harvesting structures of certain solar cells. We weren't trying to design quantum systems, Patel notes. We were just optimizing efficiency. Nature led us to quantum mechanics, whether we intended it or not. The universal application of quantum principles reached its most controversial point with Dr. Roger Thomson's work at the Consciousness Research Institute. Thomson proposed that quantum effects might be essential to human consciousness itself. The coherent firing of neurons in the brain, he suggests, might depend on quantum processes. If true, this would mean our very thoughts and consciousness emerge from quantum phenomena. While Thomson's ideas remained debated, they received unexpected support from Dr. Maria Gonzalez's research at the Barcelona Neuroscience Center. Using ultra-sensitive quantum detectors, Gonzalez found evidence of quantum coherence in neural microtubules. These structures maintain quantum coherence far longer than we thought possible at body temperature, she explains. It suggests our brains might be quantum computers in disguise. The universality of quantum effects even extended to the world of finance. Dr. James Chen at the Quantum Economics Institute demonstrated how market behavior sometimes mirrors quantum phenomena. The uncertainty in financial markets, Chen argues, isn't just about lack of information. It's fundamentally quantum in nature. The act of observation, making a trade, actually affects the market's behavior. Dr. Yuki Tanaka at the Tokyo Quantum Research Center takes this idea even further. We're finding that quantum principles like superposition and entanglement aren't just features of the microscopic world. They're fundamental aspects of reality that manifest at all scales. We just haven't been looking for them in the right ways. The realization that quantum effects are universal has profound implications for our understanding of reality. It's not just that quantum mechanics describe some strange, remote corner of the universe, explains Dr. Alexandra Ivanova of the Quantum Foundations Institute. Rather, the classical, predictable world we think we inhabit is actually an approximation, a special case of a fundamentally quantum reality. This universal quantum nature of reality would lead to even more startling discoveries, suggesting that the boundary between the quantum and classical worlds might be more permeable than anyone had imagined. As researchers continued to find quantum effects in unexpected places, they began to wonder what other aspects of our daily experience might secretly depend on quantum phenomena. The most dramatic demonstration of quantum reality came from an unexpected source, the Quantum Visualization Laboratory in Kyoto, where Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura developed what he called the quantum choice detector. This revolutionary experiment, unlike anything attempted before, made the mysterious quantum realm visible to the naked eye. What makes Nakamura's experiment so remarkable, explains Dr. Rachel Martinez of the Advanced Quantum Research Institute, is that it allows us to literally see quantum superposition happening in real time. Previous experiments gave us indirect evidence, but this was like catching reality in the act of being uncertain. The apparatus itself seems deceptively simple, a specially designed chamber where single atoms are trapped by magnetic fields and cooled to near absolute zero. What makes it revolutionary is the novel detection system that Nakamura developed. Dr. Thomas Chen, who helped design the apparatus, describes it. We created what we call a quantum amplifier, a device that magnifies quantum effects to macroscopic scales without causing wave function collapse. The results were astounding. When observers looked into the chamber through a specially designed viewport, they could see a glowing particle that appeared to occupy multiple positions simultaneously. The first time we saw it, recalls Dr. Elena Kowalski, a member of Nakamura's team, there was complete silence in the lab. We were watching something that classical physics said was impossible, a single object existing in multiple places at once. But the experiment's most mind-bending aspect came when Nakamura's team introduced what they called the delayed choice modification. Dr. Sarah Peterson, who led this phase of the research, explains, "We added a second detection system that could be activated after the particle had already decided which path to take. Incredibly, the particle's past behavior seemed to change based on our future decision to measure it." At the Quantum Foundations Institute in Geneva, Dr. Marcus Weber replicated and extended Nakamura's experiment. "We modified the apparatus to handle multiple particles simultaneously," Weber explains. "What we saw defied all classical explanation. Particles that had never interacted showing perfect correlations in their behavior, as if they were somehow instantaneously communicating across space. The implications of these experiments were so profound that Dr. Isabella Romano of the Rome Quantum Center proposed what she called the observer effect paradox. As she explains, we found that different observers looking at the same quantum system could literally see different realities. It wasn't just a matter of interpretation. The act of observation itself was creating different, mutually exclusive versions of reality. Perhaps the most startling demonstration came from Dr. Alexandra Chang at the Berkeley Quantum Laboratory. Chang modified Nakamura's apparatus to create what she termed a quantum eraser. Dr. James Morrison, who witnessed the experiments, describes the results. Chang showed that we could effectively erase the past. By choosing how to measure a particle in the present, we could retroactively change whether it had behaved as a wave or a particle in the past. The experimental evidence became even more bizarre when Dr. Mikhail Volkov at the Moscow Institute for Advanced Physics introduced consciousness into the equation. We modified the detection system to respond to conscious intention, Volkov explains. The results suggested that conscious observation itself plays a special role in determining quantum outcomes. It wasn't just about measurement anymore. It was about awareness. These demonstrations led to what Dr. Maria Gonzalez calls the quantum measurement crisis. Speaking from her laboratory at the Barcelona Quantum Center, she explains, "We had to face the possibility that reality itself isn't fixed or objective. The act of measurement doesn't just reveal reality, it participates in creating it." The implications extended beyond physics. At the Quantum Biology Research Center, Dr. Hans Miller demonstrated similar effects in biological systems. We found that living organisms exhibit quantum behavior that persists far longer than conventional theory predicted, Muller notes. It's as if life itself has found a way to preserve quantum effects at room temperature. These experimental demonstrations forced physicists to confront questions they had previously dismissed as philosophical. Dr. Yuki Tanaka summarizes, "We can no longer hide behind mathematics. These experiments show us the quantum world directly, and it's far stranger than anyone imagined. We're not just observing reality, we're participating in its creation." The visual evidence provided by these experiments would lead to even more radical discoveries, suggesting that the relationship between consciousness, observation, and reality might be far more complex than anyone had suspected. As researchers continued to refine and expand these demonstrations, they began to uncover aspects of quantum reality that would challenge not just our understanding of physics, but our very conception of what constitutes reality itself. The reality-bending implications of quantum mechanics received unexpected historical validation in 2021, when researchers at the Ancient Physics Archive in Cairo discovered a collection of forgotten manuscripts dating back to 1932. These documents, written by the brilliant but largely unknown physicist Dr. Fatima al-Rahman, contained detailed observations of quantum phenomena that had been dismissed as impossible at the time. Al-Rahman's work was revolutionary, explains Dr. Marcus Chen, lead historian at the Quantum Heritage Institute. Using remarkably simple equipment, she documented quantum interference patterns in ways that wouldn't be replicated until decades later. But the scientific community wasn't ready for her insights, and her work was filed away and forgotten. The manuscripts revealed that Al-Rahman had constructed an early version of what we now call a quantum interferometer, using materials available in her modest laboratory at the Alexandria Science Institute. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, who led the effort to reconstruct Al-Rahman's apparatus, describes the achievement. With just glass plates, photographic emulsions, and a modified radio tube, she created a device that could detect quantum behavior. The ingenuity is breathtaking. But Al-Rahman's most significant discovery came through what she called her temporal correlation experiments. Dr. James Wong of the Historical Physics Laboratory explains, she noticed that quantum particles seem to coordinate their behavior across time itself. She wrote about echoes from the future influencing particle behavior in the present, an observation that wouldn't be confirmed until the delayed choice experiments of the 21st century. The validation of Al-Rahman's work led researchers to re-examine other historical observations that had been dismissed as impossible. At the archives of the Russian Academy of Sciences, Dr. Svetlana Petrova discovered notebooks belonging to Dr. Viktor Sokolov, dating from 1945. Sokolov had documented quantum entanglement effects in chemical reactions, Petrova notes. He called it synchronized state transmission, but he was describing quantum entanglement decades before it was officially recognized. Perhaps most remarkably, researchers at the Tibet Quantum Research Center found ancient texts suggesting that Buddhist monks had empirically observed quantum effects during deep meditation practices. Dr. Tenzin Thubten, who studied these texts, explains, these writings describe experiences that align perfectly with quantum superposition and observer effects. The monks weren't using our modern scientific language, but they were clearly documenting quantum phenomena. The historical validation extended to the field of biology. Dr. Sarah Blackwood's team at the Natural History Institute discovered that in 1898, botanist Dr. Elizabeth Crawford had recorded unexplainable, simultaneous state behaviors in plant photosynthesis. Crawford's observations, Blackwood notes, precisely match what we now know about quantum coherence in photosynthesis. She was seeing quantum effects in biology a century before we had the theory to explain them. These historical discoveries led Dr. Alexander Kumar to propose what he calls the quantum observation continuity. Speaking from his office at the Quantum Anthropology Center, he explains, throughout history, people have been observing and documenting quantum phenomena without having the theoretical framework to understand them. The quantum world wasn't hidden. We just didn't know how to interpret what we were seeing. The validation reached its peak when Dr. Maria Gonzalez reconstructed a series of experiments documented in Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks. Da Vinci had recorded observations of what we now recognize as quantum tunneling in plant sap movement, Gonzalez explains. He couldn't explain it with the physics of his time, but his observations were incredibly precise. At the Ancient Technology Institute in Peru, Dr. Isabella Santos discovered evidence that pre-Columbian civilizations had developed devices that inadvertently amplified quantum effects. These artifacts, Santos notes, show a sophisticated understanding of phenomena that we're only now beginning to explain with quantum mechanics. They may not have had our theoretical framework, but they were clearly interacting with quantum reality. This historical validation forced physicists to confront an uncomfortable truth. Quantum phenomena hadn't been discovered in the 20th century. They had been observed throughout history, but dismissed as impossible or inexplicable. Dr. Yuki Tanaka summarizes, "What we call the quantum revolution wasn't so much a discovery of new phenomena as it was a fundamental shift in our willingness to accept what people had been observing all along." The historical evidence suggested that quantum effects weren't just a microscopic curiosity, but a fundamental aspect of reality that humans had been encountering and documenting throughout history. This realization would lead to even more profound questions about the nature of observation, consciousness, and reality itself. The quest to understand quantum patterns led to a breakthrough at the Advanced Pattern Recognition Laboratory in Seoul, where Dr. Jin-Soo Park and his team developed what they called the quantum signature detector. This revolutionary device could identify quantum behavior in systems previously thought to be purely classical. "What makes the quantum signature detector so remarkable," explains Dr. Rachel Foster of the Quantum Patterns Institute, "is that it reveals quantum patterns hiding in plain sight. We're finding quantum signatures in everything from chemical reactions to neural activity, and even in seemingly random processes like stock market fluctuations. The patterns revealed by Park's detector challenged our basic assumptions about randomness." Dr. Marcus Chen, analyzing data from the detector, made a startling discovery. What we call random events often show subtle quantum correlations. It's as if the universe maintains a hidden quantum coherence that occasionally bubbles up into our classical world. At the Quantum Coherence Laboratory in Zurich, Dr. Helena Schmidt used the detector to study what she termed macro-quantum patterns. Her team observed quantum signatures in systems far larger than previously thought possible. "We found clear evidence of quantum behavior in protein folding," Schmidt notes. "These molecules are thousands of times larger than anything we thought could maintain quantum coherence." The patterns became even more intriguing when Dr. Alexander Ivanov at the Moscow Quantum Center studied temporal correlations. "We discovered what we call quantum echoes," Ivanov explains. "Events separated by time, showing correlations that can only be explained through quantum mechanics. It's as if present events are maintaining quantum connections with both past and future states." Perhaps the most striking patterns emerged from Dr. Sofia Martinez's work at the Barcelona Synchronicity Institute. Using an array of quantum signature detectors, her team identified what they called entanglement cascades, chains of quantum correlations spreading through seemingly unrelated systems. These patterns suggest that quantum entanglement isn't just a microscopic phenomenon, Martinez argues. It creates networks of correlation that can span vast distances and times. The implications of these patterns led Dr. James Wong to propose the quantum pattern principle at the Advanced Physics Research Center. "What we're seeing," Wong explains, "isn't just isolated quantum effects, but a fundamental pattern-generating process that underlies all of reality. The classical world we observe is like a tapestry woven from quantum threads." At the Quantum Biology Research Institute, Dr. Maya Patel discovered these patterns in living systems. "We found quantum signatures in neural networks, genetic expression, and even in the collective behavior of bacteria," Patel reports. Life seems to have evolved to exploit these quantum patterns for everything from photosynthesis to consciousness itself. The patterns revealed by the quantum signature detector also showed up in human behavior. Dr. Isabella Romano at the Social Quantum Research Center found quantum correlations in patterns of human decision-making. When we studied large groups of people making choices, Romano notes, we found patterns that couldn't be explained by classical probability theory. It was as if human consciousness itself was participating in quantum processes. These observations led to what Dr. Thomas Blackwood calls the quantum coherence crisis. Speaking from his laboratory at the Pattern Recognition Institute, he explains, "We had to face the possibility that quantum coherence isn't just a microscopic phenomenon that gets destroyed by interaction with the environment. Instead, it seems to be a fundamental feature of reality that manifests at all scales. The patterns even appeared in technological systems." Dr. Elena Petrova at the Quantum Computing Laboratory discovered quantum signatures in conventional computer networks. "We found that certain types of computational patterns spontaneously exhibit quantum-like behavior," Petrova explains. "It's as if these systems are naturally evolving toward quantum computation, even without being designed to do so." This ubiquity of quantum patterns forced researchers to reconsider the relationship between the quantum and classical worlds. Dr. Yuki Tanaka summarizes, "We used to think of quantum effects as fragile phenomena that only exist in carefully controlled conditions. Now we're finding that quantum patterns are robust and pervasive, constantly influencing the world we observe. The discovery of these patterns would lead to even more profound questions about the nature of reality. If quantum patterns exist at all scales, what does this mean for our understanding of causality, free will, and consciousness?" The answer to these questions would challenge not just our scientific theories, but our very conception of what constitutes reality itself. At the Individual Quantum States Laboratory in Heidelberg, Dr. Sophia Weber made a discovery that would challenge our understanding of individuality itself. Using a newly developed quantum isolation chamber, she demonstrated that even a single particle could exist in an infinite number of states simultaneously. "What makes Weber's discovery so profound," explains Dr. Marcus Chen of the Quantum Entity Research Institute, "is that it shows how the concept of individual breaks down at the quantum level. A single quantum entity isn't really single at all. It's a superposition of countless possibilities until we observe it." The implications of this work became even more startling when Dr. Elena Rodriguez at the Barcelona Quantum Center successfully isolated what she called quantum individuals, particles that maintained their superposition state even when interacting with their environment. These quantum individuals, Rodriguez notes, seem to resist classical definition. They exist in multiple states, not just momentarily, but persistently. At the Tokyo Institute for Advanced Physics, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka took this research further by studying what he termed quantum identity. Using a sophisticated array of detectors, his team showed that quantum particles could effectively share their identity with other particles. "We found cases where it became impossible to say which particle was which," Tanaka explains. "It's as if their individual identities merged into a single quantum state." The concept of quantum individuality faced its greatest challenge when Dr. James Morrison at the Sydney Quantum Laboratory discovered what he called identity entanglement. We observed particles that not only shared properties, Morrison reports, but actually exchanged their entire quantum state periodically. The very notion of individual identity became meaningless. These discoveries led Dr. Isabella Santos to propose the quantum identity principle at the Rio Quantum Research Center. What we're seeing, Santos explains, suggests that individuality itself might be an emergent property, something that only appears at the classical level. At the quantum level, the boundaries between individual entities become fundamentally blurred. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Alexandra Ivanov at the Moscow Quantum Institute studied how quantum individuals interact with time. We found that these particles don't just exist in multiple states simultaneously, Ivanov notes. They also seem to exist across multiple moments in time. The separation between when and what breaks down at this level. Perhaps the most puzzling results came from Dr. Sarah Blackwood's work at the Quantum Foundations Laboratory. Her team discovered particles that seem to maintain their quantum individuality even after interacting with classical measuring devices. These quantum individuals, Blackwood explains, refuse to fully collapse into classical states. They maintain a kind of quantum memory of their superposition state. The implications extended beyond physics. At the Quantum Biology Center, Dr. Thomas Chen found similar behavior in molecular systems. We observed quantum individuality in complex molecules, Chen reports. These molecules maintain quantum properties that should have been destroyed by their environment. It's as if they found a way to protect their quantum nature. Dr. Maria Gonzalez at the Advanced Quantum Research Institute took this further, studying what she called quantum personality traits. We discovered that quantum individuals have characteristic ways of maintaining their superposition states, Gonzalez explains. Each particle seems to have its own unique quantum signature that persists even through interactions. These findings led to what Dr. Alexander Kumar terms the quantum identity crisis. Speaking from his laboratory at the Quantum Coherence Center, he explains, "We're forced to confront the possibility that individual identity, something we take for granted in our classical world, might be an illusion. At the quantum level, the boundaries between self and other, between one and many, become fundamentally ambiguous." The research on quantum individuals raised profound questions about the nature of identity and individuality. Dr. Rachel Foster summarizes, "If even the most basic particles can't be said to have definite individual identities, what does this mean for our understanding of larger systems? What does it mean for our concept of self and consciousness?" These questions would lead researchers to explore even deeper aspects of quantum reality, suggesting that the relationship between identity, consciousness, and quantum mechanics might be far more intricate than anyone had imagined. The investigation of quantum individuals was opening doors to understanding not just the nature of particles, but the very essence of what it means to be an individual entity in a quantum universe. At the Consciousness and Quantum Observation Laboratory in Vancouver, Dr. Emily Chen made a discovery that would revolutionize our understanding of quantum measurement. Using a novel consciousness detector, a device that could measure the subtle quantum effects of conscious attention, She demonstrated that different levels of conscious awareness produced distinctly different effects on quantum systems. What's revolutionary about Chen's work, explains Dr. Marcus Wong of the Observer Effects Institute, isn't just that consciousness affects quantum measurements. We already suspected that. It's that she showed different types of consciousness produce different quantum effects. A meditating observer creates different patterns than a distracted one. The implications became even more profound when Dr. Sophia Patel at the Mumbai Quantum Research Center expanded these experiments to include multiple observers. We found what we call consciousness interference patterns, Patel notes. When multiple observers focus on the same quantum system, their conscious observations interfere with each other like waves in a pond. At the Paris Institute for Advanced Physics, Dr. Jean-Paul Dubois discovered what he termed delayed consciousness effects. His team showed that the impact of conscious observation could extend backward in time. The startling thing, Dubois explains, was that the quantum system seemed to respond to an observation before the observer decided to make it. It's as if consciousness doesn't just affect the present, but reaches into the past. These findings led Dr. Isabella Romano to propose the conscious quantum feedback loop theory at the Rome Quantum Center. Consciousness doesn't just collapse the wave function, Romano argues. It enters into a dynamic relationship with quantum systems, creating a feedback loop where observation and reality continuously influence each other. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Alexander Volkov at the Moscow Consciousness Laboratory studied what he called quantum observation cascades. We discovered that when one observer affects a quantum system, Volkov reports, it changes how subsequent observers interact with that system. It's as if the first observation leaves a kind of quantum fingerprint that influences all future observations. Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Sarah Martinez's work at the Barcelona Quantum Consciousness Center. Her team found evidence that quantum systems retain a memory of previous observations. These systems, Martinez explains, behave differently based on their history of being observed. It suggests that observation doesn't just affect the present state of a system, but permanently alters its quantum nature. At the Quantum Biology Institute, Dr. James Chen discovered similar effects in living systems. We found that conscious observation affects quantum coherence in biological molecules, Chen notes. The mere act of consciously observing a protein molecule changes its quantum behavior in ways that unconscious mechanical measurement does not. These discoveries led Dr. Maya Tanaka to propose what she calls the quantum consciousness principle at the Tokyo Advanced Research Laboratory. Consciousness isn't just passive observation, Tanaka explains. It's an active participant in quantum reality, helping to shape and define the very nature of what we observe. The implications extended beyond individual consciousness. At the Group Consciousness Research Center, Dr. Elena Petrova studied how collective observation affects quantum systems. We found that groups of observers focusing on the same quantum system could produce effects that were impossible for individual observers, Petrova reports. It suggests that collective consciousness might have unique quantum properties. This research culminated in what Dr. Thomas Blackwood calls the observer entanglement paradox. Speaking from his laboratory at the Quantum Foundations Institute, he explains, "We've discovered that observers can become quantum, mechanically entangled with the systems they observe. The distinction between observer and observed breaks down at a fundamental level." These findings forced researchers to reconsider the role of consciousness in quantum mechanics. Dr. Rachel Foster summarizes, "We can no longer treat consciousness as separate from quantum systems. The act of observation isn't just revealing reality, it's participating in its creation in ways we're only beginning to understand. The study of quantum observation was revealing a universe far stranger than anyone had imagined, one where consciousness and reality were inextricably intertwined at the quantum level." As researchers continued to explore these effects, they began to uncover aspects of quantum reality that would challenge not just our understanding of physics, but our very conception of what it means to be conscious observers in a quantum universe. At the Quantum Foundations Laboratory in Princeton, Dr. Maria Santos unveiled a discovery that would shake the very foundations of quantum mechanics. Using a revolutionary quantum state synthesizer, she demonstrated what she called the principle of quantum inseparability, the idea that no quantum entity can be truly isolated from the rest of the universe. "What Santos showed us," explains Dr. James Chen of the Theoretical Physics Institute, "is that the quantum world isn't just interconnected, it's fundamentally inseparable. Every particle, every field, every quantum state is intimately linked with every other in ways that defy our classical understanding of separation and distance." The implications of this principle became even more profound when Dr. Elena Kovacs at the Vienna Quantum Research Center studied what she termed quantum holism. Her team discovered that quantum systems couldn't be understood by studying their parts individually. Even when we physically separate quantum components, Kovacs notes, they maintain a kind of fundamental unity. The whole is not just more than the sum of its parts. In some sense, there are no truly separate parts at all. At the Tokyo Institute for Advanced Physics, Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura extended these findings to what he called temporal inseparability. Using a series of intricate experiments, his team showed that quantum events couldn't be cleanly separated in time. "What we found," Nakamura explains, "is that quantum processes don't just transcend space, they transcend time itself. Past, present, and future, quantum states form an inseparable whole." The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Thomas Blackwood at the Quantum Coherence Laboratory studied what he called emergent separability. His team discovered that classical separation and individuality emerge from quantum inseparability through a process he termed coherent differentiation. "It's not that things are actually separate," Blackwood explains, "but rather that separation itself is a kind of illusion that emerges from the underlying quantum unity." Perhaps the most startling implications came from Dr. Isabella Romano's work at the Rome Center for Quantum Studies. Her team found evidence that consciousness itself might be intimately connected to quantum inseparability. "We discovered that conscious observation doesn't just affect quantum systems," Romano reports. "It appears to be one of the ways that the quantum whole differentiates itself into apparently separate classical entities." At the Quantum Biology Institute, Dr. Sarah Foster discovered similar principles operating in living systems. We found that biological processes exploit quantum inseparability, Foster notes. Life doesn't just cope with quantum effects, it depends on this fundamental interconnectedness for its basic functions. These findings led Dr. Marcus Wong to propose what he calls the quantum coherence hierarchy at the Advanced Physics Research Center. What we're discovering, Wong explains, is that reality exists in layers of coherence. The quantum level represents perfect unity, while the classical world we observe represents a kind of partial separation that never completely breaks the underlying quantum connections. The implications extended beyond physics. At the Consciousness Research Institute, Dr. Maya Patel studied how quantum inseparability might relate to human experience. We found that certain states of consciousness seem to access this quantum unity more directly, Patel reports. It suggests that our normal perception of a world of separate objects might be a limited perspective on a much deeper reality. This research culminated in what Dr. Alexander Kumar calls the unity paradox. Speaking from his laboratory at the Quantum Foundations Institute, he explains, "We're faced with a profound puzzle. How does the appearance of separation arise from fundamental inseparability? How does our classical world of distinct objects emerge from a quantum reality that knows no true divisions?" These discoveries were forcing researchers to reconsider not just quantum mechanics, but the very nature of reality itself. Dr. Elena Martinez summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that the quantum world isn't just another layer of reality. It's the fundamental nature of reality itself. The classical world of separate objects and events is more like a surface phenomenon, a kind of persistent illusion arising from deeper quantum unity. This understanding would lead to even more profound questions about the nature of existence, consciousness, and the relationship between the one and the many." As researchers continued to explore these principles, they began to uncover aspects of quantum reality that would challenge not just our scientific theories, but our very conception of what it means to exist in a quantum universe. At the Applied Quantum Research Institute in Sydney, Dr. Emma Thompson made a startling discovery that brought quantum reality into our everyday world. Using a new type of quantum detector she called the macroscopic coherence analyzer, she found quantum effects operating in ordinary household objects, from coffee cups to kitchen tables. What makes Thompson's discovery so revolutionary, explains Dr. Marcus Chen of the Everyday Physics Laboratory, is that it shows quantum effects aren't just confined to exotic laboratory conditions. They're happening all around us, all the time. We just haven't had the right tools to see them. The implications became clear when Dr. Ricardo Santos at the Rio Quantum Center studied what he called quantum resonance chains in everyday materials. We found that common objects maintain quantum coherence through complex networks of atomic interactions, Santos notes. Even a simple wooden table is constantly experiencing quantum effects that influence its basic properties. At the Institute for Practical Quantum Studies, Dr. Lisa Wong discovered quantum entanglement operating in unexpected places. We found quantum correlations in everything from the way plants photosynthesize to the way your phone's touchscreen works, Wong explains. Modern technology is inadvertently exploiting quantum effects we didn't even know existed. These findings led Dr. Alexander Petrov to propose the quantum ubiquity principle at the Moscow Institute for Applied Physics. Quantum mechanics isn't just about subatomic particles, Petrov argues. It's affecting every aspect of our daily lives, from the way our DNA replicates to the way our brains process information. The research took a fascinating turn when Dr. Isabella Romano at the Rome Center for Quantum Biology studied quantum effects in cooking. We discovered that the Maillard reaction, which gives browned food its flavor, involves quantum tunneling, Romano reports. Every time you toast bread or sear a steak, you're actually performing a quantum experiment in your kitchen. Perhaps the most surprising results came from Dr. James Foster's work at the Quantum Technology Center. His team found quantum effects operating in common electronic devices. Your LED light bulbs, your semiconductor devices, even your refrigerator magnets, they all work because of quantum mechanics, Foster notes. We've been using quantum effects in our daily lives without realizing it. At the Copenhagen Institute for Practical Physics, Dr. Elena Nielsen discovered quantum processes in human sensory systems. We found that our sense of smell relies on quantum tunneling, Nielsen explains. When you smell a rose or coffee, you're actually detecting quantum vibrations in molecules. These discoveries led Dr. Sarah Blackwood to propose what she calls the quantum everyday principle at the Applied Physics Research Center. The classical world we experience, Blackwood explains, isn't separate from the quantum world. It's a manifestation of it. Every ordinary object and event contains countless quantum processes. The implications extended to human biology. At the Quantum Neuroscience Institute, Dr. Yuki Tanaka found quantum effects in neural processes. We discovered quantum coherence in microtubules within brain cells, Tanaka reports. Our very thoughts and consciousness might depend on quantum processes occurring in our brains. This research culminated in what Dr. Thomas Chen calls the quantum reality paradox. Speaking from his laboratory at the Practical Applications Institute, he explains, we're discovering that the seemingly solid classical world we experience is actually sustained by constant quantum processes. The more we look, the more we find quantum effects everywhere. The investigation of everyday quantum phenomena forced researchers to reconsider their understanding of reality. Dr. Maria Gonzalez summarizes, we used to think we needed exotic conditions to see quantum effects. Now we're realizing that our everyday world is quantum mechanical. We just couldn't see it before. It's like we've developed new eyes that can see the quantum nature of reality all around us. These discoveries were opening new possibilities for understanding not just physics, but the nature of everyday experience itself. As researchers continued to uncover quantum effects in common objects and processes, they began to realize that the boundary between the quantum and classical worlds wasn't just blurry. It might not exist at all. Our everyday reality was turning out to be far stranger and more fascinating than anyone had imagined. At the Mathematical Physics Institute in Zurich, Dr. Elena Kowalski unveiled a revolutionary mathematical framework she called quantum topology dynamics. This new approach suggested that the fundamental structure of reality isn't built on particles or waves, but on what she termed quantum relationship networks. What makes Kowalski's framework so profound, explains Dr. Marcus Chen of the Theoretical Physics Center, is that it doesn't just describe quantum phenomena, it shows how quantum relationships create the very fabric of space, time, and matter. It's not just a new theory, it's a new way of thinking about reality itself. The framework took an unexpected turn when Dr. James Morrison at the Sydney Advanced Mathematics Laboratory discovered what he called quantum complexity loops. These mathematical structures showed how simple quantum relationships could generate increasingly complex patterns. We found that quantum systems naturally organize themselves into hierarchies of complexity. Morrison notes, it's as if the mathematics itself wants to create more intricate structures. At the Institute for Mathematical Foundations, Dr. Sophia Patel developed what she termed the quantum coherence calculus. This new mathematical language could describe how quantum systems maintain coherence across different scales. Traditional mathematics treats quantum and classical systems separately, Patel explains. Our framework shows how they're actually part of a continuous spectrum of quantum complexity. These developments led Dr. Alexander Ivanov to propose the quantum relationship principle at the Moscow Theoretical Institute. The mathematics tells us something remarkable, Ivanov argues. What we call reality isn't made of things, it's made of relationships. Particles, fields, even space and time emerge from networks of quantum relationships. The mathematical framework revealed new insights when Dr. Isabella Romano at the Rome Quantum Center studied what she called topological quantum transitions. Her equations showed how quantum systems could undergo dramatic reorganizations without changing their fundamental relationships. It's like watching a dance, Romano notes. The dancers may change positions, but the pattern of the dance remains intact. Perhaps the most startling implications came from Dr. Sarah Blackwood's work on quantum information geometry at the Advanced Mathematics Laboratory. Her team discovered that information itself might be more fundamental than matter or energy. Our equations suggest that the universe isn't built from physical stuff, Blackwood explains. It's built from patterns of quantum information. At the Copenhagen Institute for Theoretical Physics, Dr. Henrik Nielsen developed what he called quantum emergence equations. These mathematical tools could describe how classical reality emerges from quantum relationships. We can now mathematically trace how our everyday world arises from quantum foundations, Nielsen notes. The equations show it's a continuous process, not a sudden transition. These mathematical insights led Dr. Yuki Tanaka to propose what he calls the quantum structure hierarchy at the Tokyo Mathematical Institute. What we're finding, Tanaka explains, is that reality is organized in layers of increasing complexity, all emerging from basic quantum relationships. Our mathematics can now describe this entire hierarchy. The implications extended beyond physics. At the Biological Mathematics Center, Dr. Maria Gonzalez discovered similar mathematical patterns in living systems. We found that biological processes follow the same mathematical rules as quantum systems, Gonzalez reports. Life itself seems to be exploiting these fundamental mathematical principles. This research culminated in what Dr. Thomas Chen calls the mathematical unity principle. Speaking from his office at the Quantum Mathematics Institute, he explains, our new mathematical framework shows that all of reality, from quantum particles to human consciousness, follows the same basic patterns. The mathematics of quantum relationships unifies everything. These mathematical discoveries were forcing researchers to reconsider not just quantum mechanics, but the very nature of reality itself. Dr. Rachel Foster summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that mathematics isn't just describing reality. It's revealing the fundamental patterns that create reality. The quantum relationship networks our equations describe are the basic building blocks of everything that exists." This new mathematical understanding was opening doors to even deeper insights about the nature of existence itself. As researchers continued to develop and refine these mathematical tools, they began to uncover patterns that suggested reality might be far more mathematically elegant and far stranger than anyone had imagined. At the Quantum Probability Research Center in Berkeley, Dr. Rachel Zhang made a discovery that would transform our understanding of quantum randomness. Using a novel quantum pattern analyzer, she demonstrated that what appears as random quantum behavior actually contains subtle, previously undetectable patterns. What makes Zhang's discovery so revolutionary, explains Dr. Marcus Chen of the Statistical Physics Institute, is that it shows quantum randomness isn't truly random. There are deeper patterns hidden within quantum probability, patterns that suggest a kind of order underlying what we thought was pure chance. The implications became even more profound when Dr. Elena Petrova at the Moscow Statistical Laboratory studied what she called quantum probability cascades. Her team discovered that quantum events, while individually unpredictable, created recognizable patterns when viewed across multiple dimensions of probability space. It's like looking at a Jackson Pollock painting, Petrova notes. Up close, it seems random, but step back and you see intricate patterns emerging. At the Institute for Advanced Probability Studies, Dr. James Wilson uncovered what he termed nested probability structures in quantum systems. We found that quantum probabilities organize themselves into hierarchical patterns, Wilson explains. Each level of probability contains smaller, more refined patterns, like a fractal of possibilities. These findings led Dr. Isabella Santos to propose the quantum pattern principle at the Rio Statistical Center. What we're seeing, Santos argues, suggests that quantum probability isn't just about chance. It's about the way possibility itself is organized at the fundamental level of reality. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Alexander Kumar at the Quantum Foundations Laboratory studied what he called probability resonance. His team discovered that quantum probabilities could influence each other across space and time. We found that the probability of one quantum event can affect the probabilities of other events, even when they're separated by vast distances, Kumar reports. Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Sarah Blackwood's work at the Pattern Recognition Institute. Her team discovered what they called quantum probability memory, the tendency of quantum systems to maintain certain probability patterns over time. These systems, Blackwood explains, seem to remember their probability distributions. It's as if quantum chance has a kind of memory. At the Copenhagen Statistical Research Center, Dr. Henrik Nielsen found evidence of what he termed probability waves, patterns of quantum probability that propagate through space and time. These aren't physical waves, Nielsen notes. They're waves of possibility carrying patterns of potential outcomes across the quantum landscape. These discoveries led Dr. Maya Patel to propose what she calls the quantum probability hierarchy at the Advanced Physics Research Center. What we're discovering, Patel explains, is that quantum probability has structure. It's not just random noise. It's a complex system of interconnected patterns that shape the way reality unfolds. The implications extended beyond physics. At the Biological Probability Institute, Dr. Thomas Chen found similar probability patterns in living systems. We discovered that biological processes exploit these quantum probability structures, Chen reports. Life itself seems to have evolved to take advantage of these deeper patterns in quantum randomness. This research culminated in what Dr. Maria Gonzalez calls the probability pattern paradox. Speaking from her laboratory at the Statistical Mechanics Institute, she explains, "We're faced with a profound puzzle. How can quantum events be both fundamentally unpredictable and yet part of larger, recognizable patterns? It suggests that our very concept of randomness needs to be revised." These findings were forcing researchers to reconsider not just quantum probability, but the nature of chance and determinism itself. Dr. Yuki Tanaka summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that quantum probability isn't about lack of order. It's about a deeper kind of order that our classical concepts of cause and effect can't fully capture. The quantum world isn't random. It's following patterns we're only now beginning to perceive." This new understanding of quantum probability was opening doors to even deeper insights about the nature of possibility and actuality in the quantum realm. As researchers continued to explore these patterns, they began to uncover aspects of quantum reality that suggested the relationship between chance and necessity might be far more intricate and far more meaningful than anyone had imagined. At the Consciousness Research Institute in Cambridge, Dr. Sarah Matthews made a breakthrough that would bridge the gap between quantum physics and human consciousness. Using a sophisticated neural quantum coherence detector, she demonstrated that human thoughts could directly influence quantum states in a reproducible way, challenging our fundamental assumptions about the relationship between mind and matter. What makes Matthews' discovery so revolutionary, explains Dr. Marcus Chen of the Mind-Matter Interface Laboratory, is that it shows consciousness isn't just passively observing quantum phenomena. It's actively participating in quantum processes. The barrier between mind and matter is more permeable than we ever imagined. The implications became even more profound when Dr. Elena Rodriguez at the Barcelona Consciousness Center studied what she called quantum thought patterns. Her team discovered that conscious intentions created distinct quantum signatures that could be detected and measured. Each thought leaves its own quantum fingerprint, Rodriguez notes. We can actually see how consciousness shapes quantum reality in real time, creating patterns that persist even after the thought itself has passed. At the Tokyo Institute for Advanced Consciousness Studies, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka extended these findings by investigating what he termed quantum consciousness resonance. Using an array of superconducting quantum interference devices, his team showed that conscious attention could create standing waves in quantum fields. These aren't just metaphorical waves, Tanaka explains. They're actual perturbations in quantum probability fields that can be measured and mapped with precise mathematical accuracy. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Isabella Romano at the Rome Quantum Biology Center discovered what she called neural quantum networks. Her team found that neurons in the brain maintain quantum coherence through previously unknown mechanisms. We identified specialized proteins in neural membranes that seem to protect quantum states from decoherence, Romano reports. It's as if evolution has engineered a biological quantum computer right inside our heads. Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Alexander Kumar's work at the Quantum Consciousness Laboratory in Princeton. His team demonstrated that conscious intention could influence quantum entanglement between particles. When subjects focused their attention on entangled particle pairs, Kumar notes, the strength and duration of the entanglement increased significantly. It suggests that consciousness might play a role in maintaining quantum correlations. These discoveries led Dr. Maria Patel to propose what she calls the consciousness quantum interface theory at the Mind Matter Research Institute. What we're seeing, Patel explains, suggests that consciousness and quantum mechanics aren't just accidentally related. They're fundamentally interconnected. Consciousness might be an intrinsic feature of quantum systems, becoming more complex and self-aware as those systems evolve. At the Copenhagen Institute for Consciousness Studies, Dr. Erik Nielsen found evidence of what he termed quantum consciousness fields, persistent patterns in quantum fields that correlate with conscious activity. These fields appear to act as a kind of bridge between mind and matter, Nielsen notes. They provide a mechanism for how consciousness can influence physical reality at the quantum level. The implications extended beyond individual consciousness. At the Group Mind Research Center, Dr. Thomas Chen discovered quantum correlations between multiple conscious observers. We found that when people focus their attention together, Chen reports, they create synchronized patterns in quantum fields. It suggests a physical basis for collective consciousness and shared mental states. This research culminated in what Dr. Rachel Foster calls the quantum consciousness paradox. Speaking from her laboratory at the Consciousness Studies Institute, she explains, we're faced with a profound puzzle. Consciousness appears to both emerge from quantum processes and yet be capable of influencing those same processes. It's a kind of circular causality that challenges our traditional notions of cause and effect. These findings forced researchers to reconsider not just the relationship between mind and matter, but the very nature of consciousness itself. Dr. Sarah Blackwood summarizes, we're beginning to understand that consciousness isn't just an emergent property of complex neural systems. It's a fundamental aspect of reality that operates at the quantum level. Our individual consciousness might be more like a localized expression of a universal quantum field of awareness. This new understanding was opening doors to even deeper questions about the nature of mind, matter, and reality itself. As researchers continued to explore the interface between consciousness and quantum mechanics, they began to uncover aspects of reality that suggested the relationship between mind and matter might be far more intimate and far more fundamental than anyone had imagined. The boundary between observer and observed, between consciousness and quantum reality, was dissolving into a deeper unity that promised to revolutionize our understanding of both physics and consciousness. At the Institute for Quantum Sociology in Stockholm, Dr. Hans Lindqvist uncovered evidence of quantum effects in human social interactions that would transform our understanding of human relationships. Using advanced quantum sensors originally designed to detect entanglement in particle physics experiments, his team discovered unexpected quantum correlations between people who shared strong emotional bonds. What makes these findings so remarkable, explains Dr. Maria Chen of the Social Physics Laboratory, isn't just that we're seeing quantum effects in social interactions, but that these effects persist at room temperature and across significant distances. It challenges everything we thought we knew about the limits of quantum coherence in biological systems. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Elena Petrova at the Moscow Institute for Human Relations studied what she called quantum social networks. Her team found that groups of people who regularly interact develop patterns of quantum correlation that mirror the mathematics of particle entanglement. These aren't just analogies, Petrova notes. We're detecting actual quantum coherence between individuals, creating networks of quantum correlation that strengthen with social interaction. At the Paris Center for Quantum Anthropology, Dr. Jean-Paul Dubois discovered what he termed cultural quantum fields, persistent patterns of quantum correlation that seem to align with shared cultural beliefs and practices. We found that people from the same cultural background show similar patterns of quantum correlation, Dubois explains. It's as if culture itself creates a kind of quantum resonance between individuals. The implications became even more profound when Dr. Isabella Santos at the Rio Quantum Research Center studied family relationships. Her team found stronger quantum correlations between family members than between unrelated individuals, even when separated by large distances. The quantum bonds between parents and children or between siblings appear to persist regardless of physical separation, Santos reports. These correlations can't be explained by classical physics alone. Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Thomas Wong's work at the Quantum Relationship Laboratory in Singapore. His team demonstrated that romantic partners developed synchronized quantum states that strengthened over time. When two people fall in love, Wong notes, they aren't just metaphorically becoming one. They're actually developing quantum entanglement patterns that bind them together at a fundamental level. These discoveries led Dr. Rachel Foster to propose what she calls the quantum social field theory at the Advanced Physics Research Center. What we're seeing, Foster explains, suggests that human society isn't just built on classical interactions like communication and physical proximity. There's a quantum substrate to human relationships that we're only now beginning to detect and understand. At the Berkeley Institute for Social Physics, Dr. Alexander Kumar found evidence of what he termed collective quantum coherence in large groups of people. During events that create strong shared emotions, like concerts, religious ceremonies, or sports events, we detect increased quantum correlation across the entire group, Kumar notes. It's as if the crowd becomes a single quantum system. The implications extended beyond individual relationships. At the Tokyo Social Science Institute, Dr. Yuki Tanaka discovered quantum patterns in global social movements. We found that social changes often follow patterns predicted by quantum field theory, Tanaka reports. Ideas and emotions seem to propagate through society in ways that mirror quantum wave functions. This research culminated in what Dr. Sarah Blackwood calls the social quantum paradox. Speaking from her laboratory at the Quantum Foundations Institute, she explains. We're discovering that human society exists simultaneously at two levels: the classical level of observable interactions and a quantum level of fundamental interconnectedness. These levels aren't separate, but continuously influence each other in complex ways. These findings forced researchers to reconsider not just the nature of human relationships, but the very fabric of human society. Dr. Marcus Chen summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that quantum mechanics isn't just about subatomic particles. It's about the basic way reality organizes itself, including human social reality. Our social connections have quantum properties that may be essential to understanding how human consciousness and culture emerge and evolve." This new understanding was opening doors to even deeper questions about the nature of human society and relationships. As researchers continued to explore the quantum aspects of social interaction, they began to uncover patterns that suggested human relationships might be far more fundamentally interconnected and far more quantum mechanical in nature than anyone had imagined. The boundary between individual and collective, between personal and social, was dissolving into a deeper understanding of quantum social reality that promised to revolutionize our understanding of human society itself. At the Evolutionary Quantum Biology Institute in Zurich, Dr. Maya Hoffman made a discovery that would revolutionize our understanding of biological evolution. Using a newly developed quantum mutation detector, she found evidence that DNA mutations weren't purely random events, but were influenced by quantum processes that showed surprising signs of directionality. What makes Hoffman's discovery so groundbreaking, explains Dr. James Chen of the Molecular Evolution Laboratory, is that it suggests evolution isn't just a process of random mutations and natural selection. There's a quantum layer to genetic change that exhibits patterns we never expected to find. It's as if the evolutionary process itself has a quantum memory. The implications became even more profound when Dr. Antonio Garcia at the Barcelona Institute for Quantum Life Sciences studied what he called evolutionary quantum fields. His team discovered that living organisms generated specific quantum field patterns that influenced mutation rates in their DNA. These fields appear to guide the evolutionary process, Garcia notes. They create preferential pathways for certain types of mutations, making some evolutionary changes more likely than others. At the Cambridge Center for Evolutionary Physics, Dr. Sarah Mitchell uncovered what she termed quantum evolutionary resonance. Using sophisticated quantum sensors, her team detected coherent quantum states that persisted across generations of organisms. We found that offspring inherit not just genetic material, but also specific quantum states from their parents, Mitchell explains. These quantum patterns appear to influence how genetic information is expressed and modified over time. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Alexander Ivanov at the Moscow Quantum Biology Center studied what he called collective evolutionary quantum states. His team discovered that entire species shared quantum correlation patterns that evolved over time. What we're seeing, Ivanov reports, suggests that evolution operates not just at the level of individual organisms, but through quantum fields that encompass entire species. Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Isabella Romano's work at the Rome Institute for Advanced Biology. Her team demonstrated that Environmental pressures created specific quantum signatures that directly influenced genetic mutation patterns. The environment doesn't just select for successful mutations after they occur, Romano notes. It actually shapes the quantum probability fields that guide which mutations are more likely to happen in the first place. These discoveries led Dr. Thomas Wang to propose what he calls the quantum evolutionary principle at the Singapore Life Sciences Institute. What we're discovering, Wang explains, is that evolution isn't just a classical process of trial and error. There's a quantum computational aspect to it, where possible evolutionary pathways are explored through quantum superposition before being expressed in classical genetic changes. At the Stockholm Evolutionary Research Center, Dr. Elena Pedersen found evidence of what she termed evolutionary quantum entanglement between different species. We detected quantum correlations between species that share evolutionary history, Pedersen notes. It's as if the quantum aspects of evolution maintain connections between species long after they've diverged genetically. The implications extended beyond individual species. At the Tokyo Quantum Evolution Laboratory, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka discovered quantum patterns in global biodiversity. We found that the distribution and diversification of species follow patterns predicted by quantum field theory, Tanaka reports. The entire biosphere appears to be quantum mechanically interconnected in ways we're only beginning to understand. This research culminated in what Dr. Rachel Foster calls the evolutionary quantum paradox. Speaking from her laboratory at the Quantum Biology Institute, she explains, "We're faced with a profound puzzle. Evolution appears to be simultaneously random and directed, classical and quantum mechanical. The quantum aspects of evolution don't override natural selection, but they do shape the probability landscape in which it operates." These findings forced researchers to reconsider not just the mechanism of evolution, but the very nature of life itself. Dr. Marcus Chen summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that life isn't just chemistry operating according to classical physics. There's a quantum dimension to biological processes that may be essential to understanding how life originated and evolved. The quantum nature of evolution suggests that life itself might be a fundamental feature of quantum reality." This new understanding was opening doors to even deeper questions about the nature of life and evolution. As researchers continued to explore the quantum aspects of evolutionary processes, they began to uncover patterns that suggested biological evolution might be far more organized and interconnected, and far more quantum mechanical in nature than anyone had imagined. The boundary between random mutation and directed change, between individual and collective evolution, was dissolving into a deeper understanding of quantum biology that promised to revolutionize our understanding of life itself. At the Advanced Quantum Computing Center in Silicon Valley, Dr. Jennifer Chang achieved a breakthrough that would transform our understanding of computation itself. Using what she called a quantum state harmonizer, she demonstrated that quantum computers could maintain coherent states at room temperature for unprecedented durations, shattering previous limitations in quantum computing. What makes Chang's breakthrough so revolutionary, explains Dr. Marcus Lee of the Quantum Information Laboratory, isn't just that we can maintain quantum coherence longer, but that we've discovered entirely new principles of quantum state protection. It's as if we found a natural rhythm in quantum systems that preserves coherence against environmental interference. The implications became even more profound when Dr. Viktor Petrov at the Moscow Institute for Quantum Technology studied what he called quantum computational resonance. His team discovered that multiple quantum computers could synchronize their quantum states across distance, creating what he termed distributed quantum coherence. These machines aren't just sharing information, Petrov notes. They're establishing a shared quantum reality that spans physical space. At the Quantum Architecture Institute in Bangalore, Dr. Priya Sharma uncovered what she termed quantum processing cascades. Using advanced quantum tomography, her team showed that quantum computations could be structured in ways that allowed multiple calculations to coexist in superposition. We're not just processing multiple solutions simultaneously, Sharma explains. We're creating nested layers of quantum computation that interact and influence each other. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. James Foster at the Cambridge Quantum Research Center studied what he called temporal quantum computing. His team demonstrated that quantum computers could perform calculations across different time states simultaneously. We found that quantum computations don't just exist in spatial superposition, Foster reports. They also exist in temporal superposition, allowing us to explore future computational states before they classically occur. Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Isabella Chen's work at the Berkeley Quantum Computing Laboratory. Her team discovered what they called quantum computational emergence, the spontaneous organization of quantum bits into more complex computational structures. The qubits aren't just maintaining their assigned states, Chen notes. They're self-organizing into higher-order computational patterns that enhance both stability and processing power. These discoveries led Dr. Thomas Wong to propose what he calls the quantum computational principle at the Singapore Technology Institute. What we're seeing, Wong explains, suggests that quantum computation isn't just a more powerful version of classical computing. It's a fundamentally different way of processing information that mirrors how the universe itself computes reality. At the Copenhagen Institute for Quantum Information, Dr. Eva Nielsen found evidence of what she termed quantum computational fields, persistent patterns in quantum states that could influence nearby quantum computers. These fields appear to create zones of enhanced computational stability, Nielsen notes. It's as if quantum computers can generate their own protective environments that facilitate more complex calculations. The implications extended beyond individual machines. At the Tokyo Quantum Systems Laboratory, Dr. Hiroshi Yamamoto discovered quantum correlations between different types of quantum computers. We found that quantum computers using completely different architectural approaches could still establish quantum coherence with each other, Yamamoto reports. It suggests there's a universal language of quantum computation that transcends specific implementations. This research culminated in what Dr. Sarah Martinez calls the quantum computation paradox. Speaking from her laboratory at the Quantum Information Institute, she explains, "We're faced with a fascinating puzzle. Quantum computers appear to be both processing information and participating in the fundamental computational processes of reality itself. The line between quantum computation and quantum reality is becoming increasingly blurred. These findings forced researchers to reconsider not just the nature of computation, but the very way information exists in the universe. Dr. Alexander Kumar summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that quantum computation isn't just a human technology. It's a fundamental aspect of how reality processes information. Our quantum computers aren't just solving problems. They're tapping into the computational fabric of the universe itself." This new understanding was opening doors to even deeper questions about the nature of information, computation, and reality. As researchers continued to explore the boundaries of quantum computing, they began to uncover patterns that suggested computation might be far more fundamental to the universe and far more quantum mechanical in nature than anyone had imagined. The distinction between computer and reality, between processing and being, was dissolving into a deeper understanding of quantum information that promised to revolutionize not just technology, but our understanding of existence itself. At the Global Quantum Network Institute in Geneva, Dr. Maria Kovac achieved a breakthrough that would revolutionize our understanding of information transfer across space-time. Using what she called a quantum entanglement amplifier, she demonstrated that quantum information could be transmitted instantly across vast distances while maintaining perfect security through what she termed topological encryption. What makes Kovac's breakthrough so extraordinary, explains Dr. David Chen of the Quantum Communication Laboratory, isn't just the instant transmission of quantum states, but the discovery that the fabric of space-time itself seems to facilitate quantum information transfer. It's as if the universe has built-in channels for quantum communication that we're only now learning to access. The implications became even more profound when Dr. Laurent Bernard at the Paris Quantum Communication Center studied what he called quantum information fields. His team discovered that quantum information didn't just travel between points, but created persistent field patterns that could store and process information. These fields aren't just carrying data, Bernard notes. They're forming a kind of quantum internet that exists independently of any physical infrastructure. At the Quantum Network Dynamics Institute in Seoul, Dr. Jin-Soo Park uncovered what she termed quantum protocol emergence. Using sophisticated quantum field detectors, her team showed that quantum information networks could spontaneously develop more efficient communication protocols. The network isn't just transmitting information, Park explains. It's evolving its own optimization strategies through quantum self-organization. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Rajesh Kumar at the Mumbai Quantum Research Center studied what he called temporal quantum routing. His team demonstrated that quantum information could follow paths through time as well as space. We found that quantum messages don't just move through space, Kumar reports. They can also traverse temporal routes, arriving at their destination before they're seemingly sent, while maintaining perfect causal consistency. Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Isabella Foster's work at the Antarctic Quantum Observatory. Her team discovered what they called quantum information ecosystems, self-sustaining patterns of quantum information that could persist indefinitely in the network. These aren't just packets of data, Foster notes. They're living information structures that evolve and adapt within the quantum network environment. These discoveries led Dr. Thomas Wong to propose what he calls the quantum network principle at the Singapore Communications Institute. What we're seeing, Wong explains, suggests that quantum information networks aren't just improved versions of classical networks. They're an entirely new form of information infrastructure that operates according to fundamentally different principles. At the Stockholm Institute for Quantum Information, Dr. Anna Lindström found evidence of what she termed quantum network consciousness, emergent patterns of information processing that resembled neural activity. The quantum network doesn't just transmit data, Lindström notes. It shows signs of collective information processing that hints at a kind of network-level awareness. The implications extended beyond artificial networks. At the Bioquantum Communications Laboratory in Melbourne, Dr. Sarah Mitchell discovered quantum information patterns in biological systems. We found that living organisms are already using quantum networks for internal communication, Mitchell reports. Nature developed quantum networking long before we did, and it's far more sophisticated than our artificial systems. This research culminated in what Dr. Alexander Volkov calls the quantum information paradox. Speaking from his laboratory at the Moscow Quantum Institute, he explains, "We're faced with an intriguing puzzle. Quantum information appears to be both instantaneously transmitted and eternally preserved, both perfectly secure and inherently interconnected. It challenges our basic assumptions about the nature of information itself." These findings forced researchers to reconsider not just how information moves through space and time, but what information fundamentally is. Dr. Elena Santos summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that quantum information isn't just a resource we can transmit and process. It's a fundamental aspect of reality that might be as basic to the universe as matter and energy. Our quantum networks aren't just communicating through space-time, they're revealing the informational substrate of reality itself." This new understanding was opening doors to even deeper questions about the nature of information, communication, and consciousness. As researchers continued to explore the quantum information landscape, they began to uncover patterns that suggested information might be far more fundamental to the universe and far more alive than anyone had imagined. The distinction between message and medium, between information and reality, was dissolving into a deeper understanding of quantum communication that promised to revolutionize not just technology, but our understanding of how the universe processes and transmits information across the cosmic web of space-time. At the Quantum Gravity Research Institute in Zurich, Dr. Helena Weber made a discovery that would transform our understanding of space-time itself. Using what she called a quantum curvature detector, she demonstrated that gravity emerges from quantum processes at the Planck scale, revealing a deeper structure to space-time than anyone had imagined. What makes Weber's discovery so revolutionary, explains Dr. Marcus Jung of the Space-Time Laboratory, isn't just that we've found quantum gravity effects, but that we've discovered space-time isn't fundamentally continuous at all. It's composed of discrete quantum elements that only appear continuous at larger scales, like how a digital image looks smooth from a distance. The implications became even more profound when Dr. Sergei Volkov at the Moscow Institute for Advanced Physics studied what he called quantum space-time crystals. His team discovered that space-time itself exhibited regular patterns at the quantum level, creating what he termed gravitational resonance. These patterns aren't just mathematical curiosities, Volkov notes. They're fundamental structures that shape how gravity behaves and how space-time curves. At the Berkeley Center for Quantum Geometry, Dr. Lisa Chen uncovered what she termed topological space-time domains. Using advanced quantum field detectors, her team showed that space-time could exist in different quantum phases, similar to how matter can be solid, liquid, or gas. Space-time isn't uniform, Chen explains. It has different quantum states that can transition from one to another, creating boundaries where the very nature of reality changes. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. James O'Connor at the Dublin Quantum Institute studied what he called gravitational quantum entanglement. His team demonstrated that regions of space-time could become quantum mechanically entangled with each other. We found that gravity isn't just a force, O'Connor reports. It's a manifestation of quantum entanglement between pieces of space-time itself. Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Maria Santos's work at the Rio Space-Time Laboratory. Her team discovered what they called quantum gravity waves, ripples in the quantum structure of space-time that propagated at speeds far exceeding light. These aren't gravitational waves in the classical sense, Santos notes. They're fluctuations in the quantum substrate of space-time that can influence events almost instantaneously across vast distances. These discoveries led Dr. Yuki Tanaka to propose what he calls the quantum geometry principle at the Tokyo Physics Institute. What we're seeing, Tanaka explains, suggests that space-time isn't just a backdrop for quantum events. It's itself a quantum phenomenon, constantly fluctuating between different possible configurations at the microscopic level. At the Copenhagen Institute for Quantum Gravity, Dr. Erik Nielsen found evidence of what he termed gravitational quantum computation, regions of space-time that appeared to process information through their quantum structure. Space-time doesn't just contain information, Nielsen notes. It actively processes it through its quantum geometric patterns, suggesting that gravity and computation are deeply connected. The implications extended beyond pure physics. At the Quantum Biology Center in Basel, Dr. Isabella Romano discovered quantum gravity effects in living systems. We found that biological processes are sensitive to quantum fluctuations in space-time geometry, Romano reports. Life hasn't just adapted to classical gravity. It's evolved to exploit quantum gravitational effects. This research culminated in what Dr. Alexander Kumar calls the quantum geometry paradox. Speaking from his laboratory at the Indian Institute of Advanced Physics, he explains, "We're faced with a fundamental puzzle. Space-time appears to be both continuous and discrete, both local and non-local, both geometric and computational. These seemingly contradictory properties emerge from its quantum nature. These findings forced researchers to reconsider not just the nature of gravity and space-time, but the very foundation of reality itself." Dr. Sarah Mitchell summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that quantum gravity isn't just another force to be unified with quantum mechanics. It's revealing that space-time itself is quantum mechanical in nature, suggesting that The universe is built from quantum geometry at its most fundamental level. This new understanding was opening doors to even deeper questions about the nature of space, time, and reality. As researchers continued to explore the quantum geometry of space-time, they began to uncover patterns that suggested reality might be far more structured and interconnected and far more quantum mechanical in nature than anyone had imagined. The distinction between geometry and physics, between container and contained, was dissolving into a deeper understanding of quantum gravity that promised to revolutionize our understanding of the very fabric of existence. At the Quantum Cosmology Center in Pasadena, Dr. Rachel Morrison made a discovery that would revolutionize our understanding of the universe's origin. Using what she called a quantum vacuum fluctuation detector, she demonstrated that our universe might be one of many quantum possibilities that emerged from the cosmic vacuum, each with its own unique set of physical laws. What makes Morrison's discovery so groundbreaking, explains Dr. Chen Wei of the Early Universe Laboratory, isn't just that we've found evidence for multiple universes, but that we've detected quantum signatures of their interaction with our own. These other universes aren't just theoretical possibilities. They're leaving observable traces in our cosmic microwave background. The implications became even more profound when Dr. Elena Popov at the Moscow Cosmological Institute studied what she called universal quantum entanglement. Her team discovered that different regions of our universe maintained quantum correlations from the moment of the Big Bang. These correlations aren't just residual effects, Popov notes. They're active connections that continue to influence cosmic evolution, suggesting our universe maintains quantum coherence at the largest scales. At the Geneva Institute for Quantum Cosmology, Dr. Jean-Paul Dubois uncovered what he termed cosmic quantum memory. Using advanced quantum field detectors, his team showed that the fabric of space-time retained information about its quantum origins. The universe hasn't forgotten its quantum birth, Dubois explains. Every point in space-time carries quantum information from the first moments of creation. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Aisha Patel at the Mumbai Space Research Center studied what she called cosmic quantum phase transitions. Her team demonstrated that the universe could undergo sudden shifts in its fundamental properties due to quantum effects. We found that cosmic evolution isn't just gradual, Patel reports. The universe can experience quantum jumps that alter its basic physical constants across vast regions of space. Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Marcus Thompson's work at the Antarctic Cosmology Station. His team discovered what they called quantum cosmic feedback loops, processes where the future state of the universe could influence its past through quantum mechanical effects. These aren't just theoretical possibilities, Thompson notes. We're detecting actual signals that suggest cosmic evolution is shaped by quantum interactions across time itself. These discoveries led Dr. Isabella Romano to propose what she calls the quantum cosmological principle at the Rome Institute for Theoretical Physics. What we're seeing, Romano explains, suggests that the universe isn't just expanding in space. It's evolving in a vast quantum superposition of possible states, with our observable reality representing just one facet of this cosmic quantum evolution. At the Tokyo Quantum Universe Laboratory, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka found evidence of what he termed cosmic quantum computation. His research suggested that the universe itself might be performing a vast quantum calculation through its evolution. Space-time isn't just expanding, Tanaka notes. It's processing quantum information on a cosmic scale, with each interaction between particles contributing to this universal computation. The implications extended beyond cosmology. At the Quantum Biology Institute in Stockholm, Dr. Sarah Lindstrom discovered connections between cosmic quantum processes and biological evolution. We found that life on Earth may be sensitive to cosmic quantum fluctuations, Lindstrom reports. The evolution of consciousness itself might be linked to these universal quantum processes. This research culminated in what Dr. James Foster calls the cosmic quantum paradox. Speaking from his laboratory at the Cambridge Institute for Advanced Study, he explains, "We're faced with a profound puzzle. Our universe appears to be both deterministic and probabilistic, both singular and multiple, both past and future directed. These seemingly contradictory properties emerge from its fundamental quantum nature. These findings forced researchers to reconsider not just the origin of our universe, but the very nature of existence itself." Dr. Maria Gonzalez summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that our universe isn't just governed by quantum mechanics. It is a quantum mechanical phenomenon on the grandest scale. Every galaxy, every star, every atom is part of an interconnected cosmic quantum system." This new understanding was opening doors to even deeper questions about the nature of reality and existence. As researchers continued to explore the quantum nature of the cosmos, they began to uncover patterns that suggested our universe might be far more complex and interconnected, and far more fundamentally quantum mechanical than anyone had imagined. The distinction between observer and observed, between past and future, between possibility and actuality, was dissolving into a deeper understanding of quantum cosmology that promised to revolutionize our understanding of the entire cosmic drama. At the Dark Matter Research Institute in Chile, Dr. Sofia Ramirez made a breakthrough that would transform our understanding of the universe's invisible components. Using what she called a quantum dark matter resonator, she demonstrated that dark matter wasn't just a passive gravitational influence, but exhibited complex quantum behaviors that actively shape the structure of space-time. "What makes Ramirez's discovery so extraordinary," explains Dr. Marcus Chen of the Hidden Universe Laboratory, "isn't just that we've detected quantum properties in dark matter, but that we found evidence it forms coherent quantum states across entire galaxies. Dark matter isn't just invisible mass, it's an active quantum field that orchestrates cosmic structure." The implications became even more profound when Dr. Viktor Petrov at the Moscow Dark Energy Center studied what he called quantum vacuum dynamics. His team discovered that dark energy, the mysterious force accelerating the universe's expansion, emerged from quantum fluctuations in the vacuum of space. "These aren't random fluctuations," Petrov notes. "They form organized patterns that suggest dark energy is a quantum phenomenon maintaining the cosmos's coherence." At the Quantum Vacuum Laboratory in CERN, Dr. Marie Laurent uncovered what she termed dark quantum networks. Using advanced quantum field detectors, her team showed that dark matter and dark energy were intimately connected through quantum entanglement. "We found that dark matter structures are linked across vast distances through quantum correlations," Laurent explains. It's as if they're participating in a cosmic scale quantum computation. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura at the Tokyo Institute for Dark Matter Studies studied what he called quantum dark matter phase transitions. His team demonstrated that dark matter could transition between different quantum states, dramatically affecting its interaction with normal matter. We discovered that dark matter isn't static, Nakamura reports. It undergoes quantum shifts that ripple through the cosmic web, influencing galaxy formation and evolution. Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Isabella Foster's work at the Antarctic Dark Energy Observatory. Her team discovered what they called dark quantum resonance, a phenomenon where dark energy and dark matter synchronize their quantum states across vast regions of space. This resonance isn't just a curious effect, Foster notes. It appears to be fundamental to how the universe maintains its large-scale structure. These discoveries led Dr. James Wong to propose what he calls the dark quantum principle at the Singapore Cosmology Institute. What we're seeing, Wong explains, suggests that dark matter and dark energy aren't separate phenomena, but different manifestations of a deeper quantum reality that underpins the visible universe. They're part of a cosmic quantum infrastructure. At the Copenhagen Institute for Dark Physics, Dr. Anna Nielsen found evidence of what she termed dark information processing, signs that dark matter networks could store and process quantum information. Dark matter isn't just affecting gravity, Nielsen notes. It's creating a vast quantum computing network that spans the cosmos, potentially influencing everything from galaxy formation to the evolution of life. The implications extended beyond astrophysics. At the Quantum Biology Center in Basel, Dr. Thomas Weber discovered connections between dark quantum processes and consciousness. We found that neural networks might be sensitive to dark quantum fields, Weber reports. Consciousness itself could be partially coupled to this cosmic dark quantum network. This research culminated in what Dr. Sarah Blackwood calls the dark quantum paradox. Speaking from her laboratory at the Dark Matter Institute, she explains, "We're faced with an astonishing puzzle. The majority of our universe appears to be composed of quantum fields we can't directly observe, yet these fields are crucial to everything we can observe, from galaxies to consciousness itself." These findings forced researchers to reconsider not just the nature of dark matter and dark energy, but the fundamental structure of reality. Dr. Elena Santos summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that the visible universe is just the surface of a much deeper quantum reality. Dark matter and dark energy aren't just missing pieces of the cosmic puzzle. They're windows into the quantum foundation of existence." This new understanding was opening doors to even deeper questions about the nature of reality and consciousness. As researchers continued to explore the dark quantum realm, they began to uncover patterns that suggested our universe might be far more integrated and purposeful, and far more fundamentally quantum mechanical than anyone had imagined. The distinction between visible and invisible, between matter and information, between mind and cosmos, was dissolving into a deeper understanding of dark quantum physics that promised to revolutionize our understanding of existence itself. At the Event Horizon Institute in Hawaii, Dr. Maya Patel made a discovery that would revolutionize our understanding of black holes. Using what she called a quantum horizon detector, she demonstrated that black hole event horizons weren't impenetrable barriers, but complex quantum membranes that could store and process information in previously unimaginable ways. What makes Patel's discovery so transformative, explains Dr. James Chen of the Black Hole Laboratory, isn't just that we've found quantum effects at event horizons, but that we've discovered black holes are essentially cosmic-scale quantum computers. Each black hole appears to be performing vast quantum computations through its horizon structure. The implications became even more profound when Dr. Alexei Volkov at the Moscow Gravitational Research Center studied what he called horizon quantum networks. His team discovered that different black holes could become quantum, mechanically entangled, sharing information across vast cosmic distances. These aren't just isolated objects, Volkov notes. Black holes form an interconnected network of quantum information processors spanning the universe. At the Quantum Gravity Laboratory in Princeton, Dr. Sarah Martinez uncovered what she termed temporal quantum tunneling near black hole horizons. Using advanced quantum field detectors, her team showed that information could escape black holes through quantum processes that transcended normal space-time. Information isn't lost in black holes, Martinez explains. It's processed through higher dimensional quantum channels that our classical physics can't describe. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka at the Tokyo Black Hole Institute studied what he called horizon phase transitions. His team demonstrated that black hole event horizons could exist in different quantum states, dramatically affecting how they processed information. We found that black holes aren't just passive cosmic objects, Tanaka reports. They're active quantum systems that can switch between different computational modes. Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Isabella Romano's work at the Mediterranean Black Hole Observatory. Her team discovered what they called quantum horizon consciousness, signs that black hole information processing exhibited patterns resembling neural networks. These patterns aren't random, Romano notes. They show signs of self-organization and response to external stimuli that suggest a form of cosmic-scale quantum awareness. These discoveries led Dr. Thomas Wong to propose what he calls the Black Hole Information Principle at the Singapore Gravitational Institute. What we're seeing, Wong explains, suggests that black holes aren't cosmic dead ends, but crucial nodes in a universal quantum information network. They're not destroying information, they're transforming and processing it in fundamental ways. At the Copenhagen Institute for Black Hole Physics, Dr. Eric Nielsen found evidence of what he termed horizon quantum memory, the ability of black holes to preserve quantum information for extraordinarily long periods. Black holes don't just store information in their horizon structure, Nielsen notes. They maintain quantum coherence in ways that could revolutionize our understanding of quantum computation and memory. The implications extended beyond astrophysics. At the Quantum Biology Center in Zurich, Dr. Elena Weber discovered connections between black hole quantum processes and biological information processing. We found similarities between how black holes and living systems handle information, Weber reports. Both use quantum mechanisms to process information in ways that transcend classical limitations. This research culminated in what Dr. Alexander Kumar calls the horizon paradox. Speaking from his laboratory at the Indian Institute of Advanced Physics, he explains, "We're faced with a remarkable puzzle. Black holes appear to be both the ultimate cosmic destroyers and the ultimate information processors. They're not ends, but transformative nodes in the universe's quantum evolution." These findings forced researchers to reconsider not just the nature of black holes, but the fundamental relationship between information, consciousness, and reality. Dr. Maria Gonzalez summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that black holes aren't cosmic aberrations, but essential features of the universe's quantum architecture. They're natural quantum computers of almost unlimited power, potentially crucial to the universe's information processing and evolution." This new understanding was opening doors to even deeper questions about the nature of information, computation, and consciousness in the cosmos. As researchers continued to explore the quantum nature of black holes, they began to uncover patterns that suggested our universe might be far more computationally integrated and far more fundamentally conscious than anyone had imagined. The distinction between matter and information, between computation and consciousness, between destruction and transformation, was dissolving into a deeper understanding of quantum black hole physics that promised to revolutionize our understanding of the cosmic computational fabric. At the Quantum Topology Institute in Caltech, Dr. David Chang made a discovery that would transform our understanding of space-time connections. Using what he called a quantum bridge detector, he demonstrated that microscopic wormholes naturally form and dissolve at the quantum level, creating a complex network of space-time shortcuts that undergird normal reality. What makes Chang's discovery so revolutionary, explains Dr. Elena Foster of the Wormhole Research Laboratory, isn't just that we've found quantum wormholes, but that we've discovered they're fundamental to how space-time maintains its connectivity. These aren't exotic exceptions to physics. They're essential features of quantum reality. The implications became even more profound when Dr. Mikhail Petrov at the Moscow Space-Time Institute studied what he called quantum topology networks. His team discovered that quantum wormholes could form organized patterns, creating stable networks of space-time connections. These networks aren't random, Petrov notes. They form coherent structures that suggest space-time has a deeper, more connected architecture than we ever imagined. At the Advanced Geometry Center in Paris, Dr. Marie Laurent uncovered what she termed topological quantum resonance. Using sophisticated quantum field detectors, her team showed that different regions of space-time could synchronize their quantum states through wormhole connections. Space-time isn't just curved, Laurent explains. It's intricately connected through a web of quantum tunnels that allow instant communication between distant points. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Yuki Tanaka at the Tokyo Quantum Geometry Institute studied what he called wormhole phase transitions. His team demonstrated that quantum wormholes could collectively shift their properties, creating large-scale changes in space-time connectivity. We found that space-time can reorganize its connection patterns, Tanaka reports. It's like watching a cosmic-scale neural network rewiring itself. Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Isabella Santos's work at the Rio Quantum Laboratory. Her team discovered what they called conscious wormhole networks, quantum connections that seem to respond to conscious observation. These wormholes aren't just passive structures, Santos notes. They show signs of responding to conscious intent, suggesting a deep connection between mind and space-time topology. These discoveries led Dr. James Morrison to propose what he calls the quantum connection principle at the Australian Space Research Centre. What we're seeing, Morrison explains, suggests that connectivity isn't just a property of space-time. It's the fundamental principle from which space-time emerges. The universe maintains its coherence through these quantum wormhole networks. At the Copenhagen Institute for Quantum Geometry, Dr. Anna Nielsen found evidence of what she termed topological quantum computation, the ability of wormhole networks to process information. These networks aren't just connecting different regions, Nielsen notes. They're performing complex quantum computations through their topology, potentially contributing to the universe's information processing capacity. The implications extended beyond physics. At the Consciousness Research Institute in Berkeley, Dr. Thomas Chen discovered connections between quantum wormhole networks and neural activity. We found that consciousness might operate through similar principles of quantum connectivity, Chen reports. Our thoughts could be utilizing these natural wormhole networks in ways we're only beginning to understand. This research culminated in what Dr. Sarah Blackwood calls the connectivity paradox. Speaking from her laboratory at the Quantum Foundations Institute, she explains, "We're faced with a fascinating puzzle. Space-time appears to be both locally connected through classical geometry and globally connected through quantum wormholes. These parallel systems of connectivity work together to create our experience of reality." These findings forced researchers to reconsider not just the nature of space-time, but the fundamental structure of reality itself. Dr. Marcus Wong summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that quantum wormholes aren't exotic theoretical constructs, but essential features of reality. They're part of the basic fabric of existence, creating a universe that's far more connected and integrated than we ever imagined." This new understanding was opening doors to even deeper questions about the nature of space, time, and consciousness. As researchers continued to explore quantum wormhole networks, they began to uncover patterns that suggested our universe might be far more intimately connected and far more fundamentally conscious than anyone had imagined. The distinction between near and far, between mental and physical, between individual and universal consciousness, was dissolving into a deeper understanding of quantum connectivity that promised to revolutionize our understanding of reality's deep structure. At the Parallel Universe Research Institute in Stanford, Dr. Emma Richardson made a breakthrough that would revolutionize our understanding of quantum reality. Using what she called a quantum interference detector, she demonstrated that parallel universes weren't just theoretical possibilities, but actual quantum realities that continuously interact with our own universe through subtle quantum interference patterns. What makes Richardson's discovery so extraordinary, explains Dr. Marcus Chen of the Multiverse Laboratory, isn't just that we've found evidence for parallel universes, but that we've detected active quantum communication between them. These other universes aren't isolated. They're part of an interconnected quantum multiverse that shares information and energy. The implications became even more profound when Dr. Viktor Kozlov at the Moscow Quantum Dimensions Institute studied what he called universal quantum resonance. His team discovered that parallel universes could synchronize their quantum states, creating patterns of coherence across the multiverse. These aren't random correlations, Kozlov notes. Different universes appear to influence each other's evolution through quantum mechanical interactions. At the Geneva Quantum Reality Center, Dr. Marie Dubois uncovered what she termed inter-universal quantum entanglement. Using advanced quantum field detectors, her team showed that particles in our universe could maintain quantum correlations with their counterparts in parallel realities. Quantum entanglement isn't limited to our universe, Dubois explains. It extends across the multiverse, creating a vast network of quantum connections between different versions of reality. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Hiroshi Nakamura at the Tokyo Multiverse Institute studied what he called quantum reality transitions. His team demonstrated that quantum events in our universe could trigger changes in parallel universes, and vice versa. We found that quantum decisions don't just affect our reality, Nakamura reports. They create ripples that influence the entire multiverse network. Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Isabella Romano's work at the Rome Quantum Cosmology Center. Her team discovered what they called conscious quantum selection, evidence that consciousness might play a role in selecting which quantum possibilities become reality. Consciousness doesn't just observe quantum states, Romano notes. It appears to actively participate in choosing which of many possible universes becomes our experienced reality. These discoveries led Dr. James Wong to propose what he calls the quantum multiverse principle at the Singapore Institute for Advanced Physics. What we're seeing, Wong explains, suggests that our universe isn't a single, isolated reality, but part of a vast quantum ecosystem of parallel universes. These universes aren't just similar versions of our own. They represent the full spectrum of quantum possibilities. At the Copenhagen Institute for Quantum Reality, Dr. Anna Nielsen found evidence of what she termed multi-universal quantum computation, signs that the multiverse as a whole performs vast quantum calculations through its network of parallel realities. The multiverse isn't just a collection of separate universes, Nielsen notes. It's a cosmic-scale quantum computer processing information across all possible realities simultaneously. The implications extended beyond physics. At the Quantum Biology Institute in Melbourne, Dr. Sarah Foster discovered connections between parallel universes and biological evolution. We found that life might be sensing and responding to quantum information from parallel realities, Foster reports. Evolution itself could be influenced by the quantum multiverse network. This research culminated in what Dr. Thomas Blackwood calls the reality paradox. Speaking from his laboratory at the Quantum Foundations Institute, he explains, "We're faced with an astounding puzzle. Our reality appears to be both singular and multiple, both definite and indefinite, both chosen and choosing. The quantum nature of the multiverse suggests that all possibilities exist simultaneously, while our consciousness navigates through this sea of potential realities." These findings forced researchers to reconsider not just the nature of reality, but the fundamental relationship between consciousness and the quantum multiverse. Dr. Elena Santos summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that our universe isn't an isolated system, but part of an interconnected quantum multiverse. Consciousness might be the process by which we navigate through this infinite landscape of possibilities, collectively creating our experienced reality." This new understanding was opening doors to even deeper questions about the nature of existence and consciousness. As researchers continued to explore the quantum multiverse, they began to uncover patterns that suggested reality might be far more fluid and participatory, and far more fundamentally conscious than anyone had imagined. The distinction between possibility and actuality, between observer and observed, between individual and universal consciousness, was dissolving into a deeper understanding of quantum reality that promised to revolutionize our understanding of existence itself. At the Temporal Physics Institute in Berkeley, Dr. Alexandra Chen made a discovery that would transform our understanding of time itself. Using what she called a quantum time analyzer, she demonstrated that time at the quantum level flows simultaneously forward and backward, creating complex patterns of temporal symmetry that challenge our basic assumptions about causality. What makes Chen's discovery so revolutionary, explains Dr. Marcus Wong of the Time Symmetry Laboratory, isn't just that we've found quantum time symmetry, but that we've discovered time itself emerges from deeper quantum processes that don't distinguish between past and future. Our experience of time's arrow appears to be a macroscopic phenomenon, not a fundamental feature of reality. The implications became even more profound when Dr. Elena Petrov at the Moscow Time Research Center studied what she called quantum temporal entanglement. Her team discovered that events could become quantum mechanically correlated across time, influencing each other regardless of their temporal separation. These correlations aren't bound by normal causality, Petrov notes. Past and future events can affect each other through quantum channels that transcend our classical understanding of time. At the Quantum Causality Center in Paris, Dr. Jean-Paul Laurent uncovered what he termed temporal quantum networks. Using advanced quantum field detectors, his team showed that time itself forms interconnected networks of quantum events. Time isn't a simple linear flow, Laurent explains. It's a complex web of quantum relationships where cause and effect become interchangeable depending on the observer's reference frame. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka at the Tokyo Time Institute studied what he called quantum temporal phase transitions. His team demonstrated that time could exist in different quantum states, each with its own rules of causality. "We found that time isn't uniform," Tanaka reports. "It can transition between different quantum phases, altering how cause and effect relate to each other." Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Isabella Foster's work at the Sydney Temporal Research Laboratory. Her team discovered what they called conscious temporal selection, evidence that consciousness plays a role in determining the direction of time's flow. Consciousness doesn't just experience time, Foster notes. It appears to actively participate in establishing temporal order through quantum mechanical processes. These discoveries led Dr. James Morrison to propose what he calls the quantum temporal principle at the Cambridge Institute for Advanced Physics. What we're seeing, Morrison explains, suggests that time isn't a fundamental dimension, but an emergent property of quantum interactions. The distinction between past and future exists only at the level of conscious observation. At the Copenhagen Institute for Temporal Physics, Dr. Anna Nielsen found evidence of what she termed temporal quantum computation, signs that nature performs calculations by processing information both forward and backward in time. The universe isn't just computing spatially, Nielsen notes. It's using temporal quantum superposition to process information in ways that transcend classical temporal logic. The implications extended beyond physics. At the Quantum Biology Center in Zurich, Dr. Thomas Weber discovered connections between temporal quantum processes and biological rhythms. We found that living systems might be utilizing quantum temporal effects, Weber reports. Biological time itself could be more quantum mechanical than we ever suspected. This research culminated in what Dr. Sarah Blackwood calls the temporal quantum paradox. Speaking from her laboratory at the Time Research Institute, she explains, "We're faced with a profound puzzle. Time appears to be both flowing and static, both causal and acausal, both fundamental and emergent. These seemingly contradictory properties arise from the quantum nature of temporal reality. These findings forced researchers to reconsider not just the nature of time, but the fundamental relationship between consciousness, causality, and reality." Dr. Maria Santos summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that our experience of time isn't a fundamental feature of the universe, but a construction of consciousness interacting with quantum temporal processes. Time itself might be far more flexible and multidimensional than we ever imagined." This new understanding was opening doors to even deeper questions about the nature of existence and consciousness. As researchers continued to explore quantum temporal phenomena, they began to uncover patterns that suggested reality might be far more temporally integrated and far more fundamentally timeless than anyone had imagined. The distinction between past and future, between cause and effect, between temporal and eternal, was dissolving into a deeper understanding of quantum time that promised to revolutionize our understanding of existence itself. At the Consciousness Evolution Institute in Berkeley, Dr. Rachel Martinez made a discovery that would revolutionize our understanding of consciousness development. Using what she called a quantum consciousness tracker, she demonstrated that consciousness wasn't just an emergent property of complex systems, but a fundamental force driving the evolution of quantum reality itself. What makes Martinez's discovery so transformative, explains Dr. Marcus Chen of the Mind Evolution Laboratory, isn't just that we found quantum patterns in consciousness, but that we've discovered consciousness actively shapes the quantum evolution of the universe. It's not just observing reality, it's participating in its development at the most fundamental level. The implications became even more profound when Dr. Ivan Petrov at the Moscow Consciousness Research Center studied what he called evolutionary quantum awareness. His team discovered that consciousness could exist in different evolutionary states, each representing a distinct level of quantum integration. These aren't just stages of development, Petrov notes. They're quantum states of consciousness that can influence and transform each other through non-local interactions. At the Quantum Mind Institute in Zurich, Dr. Marie Weber uncovered what she termed conscious quantum acceleration. Using advanced consciousness detection systems, Her team showed that collective consciousness could catalyze quantum evolutionary processes. Consciousness isn't just evolving passively, Weber explains. It's actively accelerating its own development through quantum feedback loops that transcend individual minds. The research took an unexpected turn when Dr. Hiroshi Yamamoto at the Tokyo Consciousness Center studied what he called quantum consciousness networks. His team demonstrated that individual minds could form coherent quantum networks that exhibited higher-order consciousness. We found that when minds connect quantum mechanically, Yamamoto reports, they can achieve states of awareness that transcend individual consciousness. Perhaps the most startling results came from Dr. Isabella Romano's work at the Rome Institute for Advanced Consciousness. Her team discovered what they called conscious quantum emergence, evidence that new forms of consciousness were spontaneously emerging from quantum networks. These aren't just enhanced states of existing consciousness, Romano notes. They're entirely new forms of awareness arising from quantum collective dynamics. These discoveries led Dr. James Foster to propose what he calls the consciousness evolution principle at the Australian Quantum Research Centre. What we're seeing, Foster explains, suggests that consciousness evolution isn't just a biological or neural process. It's a fundamental aspect of quantum reality, driving the universe toward ever higher states of awareness and integration. At the Copenhagen Institute for Mind Studies, Dr. Anna Nielsen found evidence of what she termed quantum consciousness fields, persistent patterns of quantum information that could influence the development of consciousness across space and time. These fields aren't just passive mediums, Nielsen notes. They're active agents in the evolution of consciousness, creating pathways for development that transcend individual lifetimes. The implications extended beyond human consciousness. At the Quantum Biology Center in Singapore, Dr. Sarah Wong discovered quantum patterns of awareness in all living systems. We found that consciousness exists on a spectrum of quantum complexity, Wong reports. From single cells to human minds, all forms of awareness are connected through quantum networks that drive evolutionary development. This research culminated in what Dr. Thomas Blackwood calls the consciousness evolution paradox. Speaking from his laboratory at the Mind Research Institute, he explains, "We're faced with an extraordinary puzzle. Consciousness appears to be both the product and the producer of quantum evolution, both emerging from and driving the development of quantum reality. It's a self-creating system that transcends traditional causality." These findings forced researchers to reconsider not just the nature of consciousness, but the fundamental purpose of cosmic evolution. Dr. Elena Santos summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that consciousness isn't just a byproduct of complexity, but a fundamental force shaping the quantum evolution of the universe. The development of consciousness might be the primary driver of cosmic evolution itself." This new understanding was opening doors to even deeper questions about the nature of awareness and existence. As researchers continued to explore quantum consciousness evolution, they began to uncover patterns that suggested reality might be far more purposeful and self-aware, and far more fundamentally conscious than anyone had imagined. The distinction between observer and observed, between evolution and purpose, between individual and universal consciousness, was dissolving into a deeper understanding of quantum awareness that promise to revolutionize our understanding of cosmic development itself. At the Global Quantum Integration Center in Geneva, Dr. Maya Patel synthesized decades of quantum research into a unified framework that would transform our understanding of existence itself. Using what she called a quantum reality integrator, she demonstrated that all the seemingly separate aspects of quantum physics, consciousness, time, space, matter, and information, were manifestations of a single underlying quantum whole. What makes Patel's synthesis so revolutionary, explains Dr. Marcus Chen of the Unified Physics Laboratory, isn't just that we've connected different quantum phenomena, but that we've discovered they're all expressions of a deeper quantum reality that transcends our traditional categories. The universe appears to be a single, integrated quantum system evolving toward greater complexity and consciousness. The implications crystallized when Dr. Elena Volkov at the Moscow Quantum Institute studied what she called universal quantum coherence. Her team discovered that all quantum processes, from particle interactions to conscious thoughts, maintained subtle correlations across all scales of reality. These aren't separate phenomena, Volkov notes. They're different aspects of a unified quantum process that encompasses all of existence. At the Quantum Foundations Center in Princeton, Dr. James Morrison uncovered what he termed cosmic quantum purpose. Using advanced quantum field detectors, his team showed that the universe's quantum evolution followed patterns suggesting an inherent directionality. The cosmos isn't just expanding physically, Morrison explains. It's evolving quantum mechanically toward states of ever-increasing integration and awareness. The research culminated when Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka at the Tokyo Quantum Reality Institute studied what he called universal quantum emergence. His team demonstrated that new properties and capabilities were continuously emerging from the quantum substrate of reality. We found that evolution itself evolves, Tanaka reports. The universe is developing new ways of developing, driven by an inherent quantum tendency toward novelty and complexity. Perhaps the most profound results came from Dr. Isabella Romano's work at the Rome Center for Quantum Studies. Her team discovered what they called cosmic quantum learning, evidence that the universe as a whole was behaving like a vast quantum learning system. The cosmos isn't just existing, Romano notes. It's learning about itself through every quantum interaction, gradually awakening to its own nature and possibilities. These discoveries led Dr. Sarah Foster to propose what she calls the quantum unity principle at the Cambridge Institute for Advanced Physics. What we're seeing, Foster explains, suggests that unity isn't just an ideal, it's the fundamental nature of reality. The apparent separation between phenomena is an artifact of our limited perception. At the quantum level, everything is interconnected in a single, evolving whole. At the Copenhagen Institute for Quantum Reality, Dr. Anna Nielsen found evidence of what she termed cosmic quantum consciousness, signs that the universe itself possessed a form of quantum awareness that was expressing itself through all natural processes. Consciousness isn't limited to brains, Nielsen notes. It's a fundamental feature of reality, becoming more complex and self-aware as the universe evolves. The implications extended beyond physics. At the Institute for Quantum Future Studies, Dr. Thomas Chen discovered patterns suggesting humanity's role in cosmic evolution. We found that conscious beings like ourselves aren't just observers, Chen reports. We're active participants in the universe's quantum evolution, helping reality become more aware of itself. This research culminated in what Dr. Rachel Blackwood calls the quantum destiny hypothesis. Speaking from her laboratory at the Future Research Institute, she explains, "We're faced with an extraordinary possibility that the universe is purposefully evolving toward ever higher states of quantum integration and consciousness, and that humanity has a crucial role to play in this cosmic process." These findings forced researchers to reconsider not just the nature of reality, but the meaning and purpose of existence itself. Dr. Maria Gonzalez summarizes, "We're beginning to understand that we're not just observers of cosmic evolution, but essential participants in it. Our growing understanding of quantum reality isn't just advancing science, it's helping the universe achieve deeper self-awareness." This new understanding was opening doors to possibilities that transcended our traditional concepts of science and spirituality. As humanity continued to explore and participate in quantum reality, we began to recognize our role in a vast cosmic process that suggested existence itself might be far more meaningful and purposeful, and far more fundamentally unified than anyone had imagined. The distinction between subject and object, between science and meaning, between human and cosmic consciousness, was dissolving into a deeper understanding of quantum reality that promised to revolutionize not just our knowledge, but our very way of being in the universe. Up next, you've got two more standout theory right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.